close your eyes and think about your own mind. Every day, it quietly stores countless moments, faces, and feelings. Your memory works in amazing ways, even as you rest. Tonight, let's explore the gentle mysteries of how we remember and forget. Your brain becomes a master architect while you sleep, constructing memories from the scattered debris of your day. Most people think memory formation happens when you're awake and alert. Wrong. The real magic occurs when your consciousness checks out and your neural janitors clock in. During REM sleep, your hippocampus acts like an overzealous librarian, frantically sorting today's experiences into permanent filing cabinets. It's replaying conversations, consolidating skills, and deciding what deserves a spot in long-term storage. That embarrassing moment when you called your teacher mom in third grade? Yeah, your brain thought that was filing cabinet worthy. But here's what nobody tells you. Forgetting is actually your brain's superpower. Without it, you'd remember every single detail of every boring Tuesday, every mundane grocery list, every time someone cut you off in traffic. Your mental hard drive would crash faster than a laptop running 50 browser tabs. The deletion process happens during deep sleep stages. Your brain literally takes out the trash, dumping irrelevant information to make room for what matters. It's like Marie Kondo for your neurons. Does this memory spark joy? No? Delete. This gentle pruning keeps you sane and focused. While you're dreaming about flying purple elephants, your brain is quietly becoming a master curator, preparing the perfect mental gallery for tomorrow's adventures. Ancient Greek orators could deliver speeches for hours without a single note. No teleprompter, no cheat sheet, nothing. How? They built invisible palaces in their minds. The method of loci, or memory palace technique, turned abstract information into a peaceful mental stroll. Picture walking through your childhood home, placing each speech point in a different room. The front door holds your opening argument. The kitchen stores your evidence. The bedroom contains your conclusion. Roman scholars took this further, constructing elaborate imaginary buildings with hundreds of rooms. They'd mentally wander marble corridors, collecting thoughts like flowers in a garden. The more bizarre or emotional the image, the better it stuck. A dancing elephant in the library? Perfect for remembering taxation policies. What's beautiful about this technique is its meditative quality. Ancient students would spend quiet hours mentally furnishing their palaces, placing memories with the care of a master architect. Each room became a sanctuary for knowledge. The Greeks believed memory was divine, literally a gift from the goddess Mnemosyne. They treated their mental palaces as sacred spaces, worthy of reverence and gentle maintenance. Modern memory champions still use these ancient methods, proving that sometimes the oldest wisdom works best. But there's something even more fascinating happening in your brain while you sleep that these ancient masters never knew about. While you're drifting off tonight, there's an entire night shift working inside your skull. No coffee breaks, no complaints, just pure dedication. Your brain has its own cleaning crew called the glymphatic system. Sounds fancy, right? Well, it's basically your brain's janitor service that only works the overnight shift. During the day, your brain cells are packed together like rush hour subway cars. But when you sleep, they literally shrink by 60%, creating highways for cerebrospinal fluid to rush through. This clear fluid acts like a pressure washer for your neurons. It swooshes around, picking up all the metabolic garbage that built up during your busy day. Think protein clumps, dead cell bits, and other neural debris that would make your brain sluggish if left behind. The timing is perfect too. Your heart rate slows down, creating gentler pressure waves that help push this cleaning fluid through every nook and cranny of your brain. It's like having a team of microscopic custodians with tiny mops working methodically through your mental hallways. Even better, this process helps clear out the sticky proteins linked to memory problems later in life. Your sleeping brain literally takes out the trash every single night. But here's what gets really fascinating about this cleanup process. While you're drifting off tonight, tiny molecular factories are working overtime in your sleeping brain. These aren't your average assembly line workers. They're protein synthesis machines creating the building blocks of permanent memories. Every single memory you want to keep requires fresh proteins. Without them, your experiences would vanish like morning mist. During deep sleep, your neurons basically become construction sites, building new protein structures that will house tomorrow's recollections. The process is surprisingly elegant. Your brain cells send out little messenger molecules called mRNA. Think of them as detailed blueprints floating through your neural neighborhoods. These blueprints tell specialized machines called ribosomes exactly what proteins to build and where to put them. But here's what makes it magical. This only happens during specific sleep stages. Your brain waits for the perfect moment when you're deeply unconscious, then begins this delicate molecular choreography. Makes sense, right? You can't have construction crews hammering away while you're trying to think clearly during the day. The proteins they create are like tiny molecular scaffolding, strengthening the connections between brain cells. Some memories get reinforced, others get quietly discarded. It's quality control at the cellular level. This peaceful protein dance happens every night without you knowing, turning fleeting moments into lasting treasures. Speaking of mysterious, nighttime processes, ancient civilizations had their own fascinating ways of preserving knowledge. Long before Google existed, humans created the most beautiful memory storage systems you've ever heard of. Ancient libraries weren't just buildings filled with scrolls. They were temples to human consciousness itself. The Library of Alexandria employed memory scribes who could recite entire epic poems from heart. These weren't just librarians. They were living, breathing backup drives. When a scroll crumbled to dust, these memory keepers would recreate it word for word. Pretty amazing backup system, right? But here's what really melts your brain. Medieval monks developed illuminated manuscripts that worked like ancient infographics. Those gorgeous golden letters and intricate drawings. They weren't just decoration. Each swirl and symbol served as a memory trigger, helping scribes remember exactly where specific passages belonged. Chinese scholars took this even further. They created memory gardens, where each plant represented different categories of knowledge. Walking through bamboo groves meant reviewing poetry. Rose gardens contained medical texts. The physical act of strolling became a peaceful form of mental filing. These ancient knowledge keepers understood something we're just rediscovering. Physical spaces and beautiful objects make memories stick better than any digital folder system. Their methods were slow, deliberate, almost meditative. Speaking of meditation and memory, there's something fascinating about how our brains naturally want to forget our earliest years. Ever wonder why you can't remember your second birthday party or that embarrassing diaper incident your parents love to bring up. Your brain actually designed it that way on purpose. Childhood amnesia isn't a bug in your memory system. It's a feature. Most people can't recall memories from before age 3 or 4. Some folks push that boundary to age 6 or 7. But here's what's fascinating. Those early memories aren't actually gone. They're just locked away in a filing cabinet your adult brain can't access anymore. Think about it like this. Your toddler brain was basically running on completely different software. The hippocampus, your brain's main memory center, wasn't fully developed yet. It was like trying to save files on a computer that didn't have the right operating system installed. Then there's the beautiful protection aspect. Your brain essentially shields you from remembering those vulnerable early years when you were figuring out basic survival. No one needs vivid memories of every tantrum or moment of pure terror when the vacuum cleaner turned on. The neurons responsible for early memories get overwritten as new connections form. It's like your brain saying, "Thanks for the practice run, but we're upgrading to premium memory storage now." But what happens to elephant families when they need to remember survival information across generations? Elephants really do have incredible memories, but probably not the way you think. They don't remember everything perfectly like some biological hard drive. Instead, their memory works more like a family photo album passed down through generations. When an elephant matriarch leads her herd to a watering hole she hasn't visited in 15 years, she's not just remembering a location. She's accessing a complex network of sensory memories. The smell of the mud, the sound of water trickling over rocks, even the feeling of cool earth under her feet. But here's what makes elephant memory truly special. They share memories as a community. Young elephants learn migration routes not through GPS, but by walking alongside their elders. Each journey becomes a living, breathing memory lesson. The most touching part? Elephants genuinely mourn their dead and remember fallen family members for decades. They've been observed returning to places where relatives died, gently touching old bones with their trunks. It's like they're having quiet conversations with ghosts. Some researchers believe elephants even pass down trauma memories through generations. A grandmother who survived drought will teach hypervigilance to grandchildren who've never faced water scarcity. Makes you wonder about your own family memories, doesn't it? Speaking of memories that ripple through time, your brain creates its own gentle waves every night during sleep. Your brain produces its own lullaby every single night, and you've never consciously heard it. While you're lying there trying to fall asleep, your hippocampus starts generating these beautiful rhythmic waves called theta waves. They pulse at about 4 to 8 cycles per second. That's slower than your resting heart rate, but faster than the deepest sleep waves. Think of it like a gentle metronome for memory. Each theta wave helps organize the day's experiences, sorting them into neat little packages. The really cool part? These waves don't just happen randomly. They coordinate with other brain regions like a perfectly conducted orchestra. Your hippocampus literally talks to your cortex using these theta rhythms. It's like they're having a peaceful conversation about which memories deserve permanent storage. Should we keep that embarrassing moment from Tuesday? Definitely save the recipe for those amazing cookies. But here's what makes it truly magical. Theta waves also happen when you're deeply relaxed or meditating. Ever notice how some of your best ideas come during those drowsy, half-awake moments? That's theta doing its job, connecting memories in creative ways. The rhythm is so consistent that researchers can actually predict when certain memories will strengthen just by watching these waves dance across brain scans. It's like having a window into your mind's most peaceful moments. Speaking of peaceful moments, there's something equally soothing about how certain scents can instantly transport you back in time. Walk into any flower shop and you'll notice something magical happens. That sweet lavender scent instantly transports you somewhere else. Maybe your grandmother's garden. Perhaps that perfect first date. Your nose just triggered the most powerful memory system in your brain. The connection between smell and memory isn't just poetic nonsense. It's hardwired into your anatomy. While other senses take scenic detours through your brain, smell travels the express lane straight to your hippocampus and amygdala. These are your memory and emotion headquarters. Ancient Egyptians figured this out thousands of years ago. They buried pharaohs with elaborate gardens of dried flowers, believing scents would help preserve memories in the afterlife. Turns out, they weren't entirely wrong about the preservation part. Here's what's really happening when you catch a whiff of fresh roses. Your olfactory neurons fire directly into brain regions that existed before you even had language. That's why certain smells can make you cry without knowing exactly why. Your nose remembers things your conscious mind forgot. Modern aromatherapy isn't just fancy marketing either. Rosemary actually contains compounds that boost memory formation. Students who study with rosemary oil nearby score better on tests. Shakespeare wasn't kidding when he wrote Rosemary for Remembrance. But here's where memory gets even more mysterious. Sometimes our brains create false connections between scents and experiences that never happened together. Your brain is surprisingly good at letting things go. While we obsess over remembering everything, forgetting might actually be its greatest skill. Think about yesterday's lunch. Can you remember every bite? Probably not. And that's perfect. Your brain constantly decides what deserves permanent storage and what gets tossed out with tomorrow's mental trash. It's like having a ruthlessly efficient personal assistant who throws away junk mail before you even see it. But here's what's really wild. When you forgive someone, your brain literally rewrites the neural pathways connected to that memory. The anger circuits get weaker. The hurt becomes less accessible. Scientists have watched this happen in real time using brain scans. Forgiveness isn't just emotional healing, it's biological renovation. People who practice forgiveness show increased activity in their prefrontal cortex, the brain's wisdom center. Meanwhile, their amygdala, the alarm system that screams, "Remember this threat forever," starts to quiet down. Even more fascinating, your brain naturally softens painful memories over time. That breakup that felt world-ending 5 years ago. The emotional sting has probably faded, even if you remember the facts. This isn't weakness, it's survival. The brain knows that holding on to every hurt would eventually paralyze you. So it gently files away the lesson and lets the pain dissolve. Speaking of ancient wisdom about memory, traders on the Silk Road developed their own fascinating techniques. Long before GPS existed, ancient merchants possessed something far more reliable than any satellite system. Their minds held detailed maps of entire continents. Picture a trader in 3rd century Damascus, preparing for the Silk Road journey. He'd memorize not just routes, but which wells held clean water, where bandits lurked, and exactly how many days between safe havens. These memory merchants developed techniques that would make modern memory champions jealous. They'd associate landmarks with stories, turning each mountain pass into a character in an epic tale. A twisted tree became the merchant who cheated his brother. A red rock formation, the angry face of a customer who refused to pay. But here's what's fascinating. Memory itself became currency. Information about safe passages, trustworthy suppliers, and seasonal weather patterns was worth more than gold. Traders would literally trade memories, swapping knowledge like precious gems. Well, when you can't write things down, because most people can't read anyway, your brain becomes your bank vault. The peaceful caravans crossing Asia weren't just carrying silk and spices. They were mobile libraries, preserving cultural knowledge across thousands of miles. Each trader carried songs, stories, and wisdom from distant lands, spreading ideas faster than any internet connection ever could. Speaking of vast networks of shared knowledge, ocean giants have been running their own memory systems for millions of years. Deep in the ocean's quiet darkness, whales carry memories that span decades like living libraries. These gentle giants remember migration routes their grandmothers taught them 50 years ago. Think about that for a moment. Your smartphone can barely remember last week's photos without cloud storage, but a humpback whale navigates thousands of miles using memories passed down through generations. The really fascinating part? They sing their memories. Those haunting whale songs aren't just random melodies. They're actually acoustic maps, passed from mother to calf, like musical inheritance. Each note carries information about feeding grounds, safe passages, and seasonal changes. It's like having GPS coordinates set to a lullaby. Blue whales, the largest animals ever to exist, have memories that stretch across entire ocean basins. They remember which underwater mountains hide krill swarms and which currents carry the richest food. Some researchers believe these giants can recall specific locations they visited 20 years earlier. Makes you wonder what else they remember, right? Here's something that'll blow your mind. When whales beach themselves, scientists often discover they were following ancient migration routes that no longer make sense due to changed coastlines. Their memories are so strong, they override current reality. Sometimes the most powerful memories can lead us astray. Speaking of powerful memories, certain meditation masters have developed techniques that make whale memory look simple. Buddhist monks figured out something incredible about memory 2,000 years ago. They discovered that paying attention actually changes how your brain stores information. When you meditate, your mind enters this super focused state where memories form differently than usual. It's like switching from a blurry camera to high definition. The weird part? Mindfulness makes your hippocampus physically bigger. That's the brain region that handles memory formation. Monks who meditate for decades literally grow larger memory centers. Talk about brain gains without hitting the gym. Ancient meditation masters used a technique called mindful remembering. Instead of forcing memories, they'd sit quietly and let them arise naturally, like waiting for fish to surface in a calm pond. This gentle approach actually strengthens memory pathways better than cramming ever could. But here's what's really cool. When you practice mindfulness, your brain produces more of a protein called BDNF. Scientists call it miracle grow for neurons. It helps memory cells communicate faster and stay healthier longer. Meditation also reduces cortisol, that nasty stress hormone that scrambles your memory. Less stress equals better recall. Makes sense, right? The most peaceful part about mindful memory practice is accepting that some thoughts will drift away. Monks understood that trying to hold on to every memory creates suffering. Sometimes, forgetting is the kindest gift your mind can give itself. Speaking of kind gifts, entire communities have their own special ways of keeping memories alive together. In tiny villages scattered across Ireland, something magical happens every evening. Grandmothers settle into worn armchairs, while children gather around crackling fires. Stories begin to flow. Not just any stories. These are memories that belong to everyone. Each tale carries the weight of generations. The Great Flood of 1879. Uncle Patrick's legendary dance at the Harvest Festival. Mary O'Brien's herb garden that could cure anything. These aren't written down anywhere. They live in voices, passed from one person to the next like precious heirlooms. What's fascinating is how these communities remember together. When one person forgets a detail, another fills it in. The baker remembers the weather on the day the church bell cracked. The postman recalls exactly which houses got damaged in the storm. It's like having a shared brain that never loses anything important. Modern neuroscience calls this distributed cognition, but villagers just call it natural. They've been doing this dance of collective memory for centuries, long before anyone knew the fancy terms. The rhythm of these storytelling sessions actually mirrors how your brain processes memories during sleep. Repetition, gentle correction, emotional connection. It's the same peaceful cycle that happens in your mind every night. But here's something even more intriguing about how memories move through communities. When you close your eyes tonight, your brain starts building something extraordinary. Dreams aren't just random chaos firing through your sleeping mind. They're actually your personal architect, constructing the most elaborate memory palace you'll ever explore. Each dream creates rooms, hallways, and secret passages where your memories get stored and organized. That weird dream where you were flying through your childhood home while talking to your third-grade teacher? Your brain was literally filing away connected memories in the same mental space. The coolest part? These dream palaces follow their own bizarre but brilliant logic. Your mind might store the memory of learning to ride a bike right next to that embarrassing moment when you fell off stage in high school. Why? Because both involve balance, courage, and getting back up after falling. Ancient Greek scholars would deliberately create memory palaces while awake, imagining walking through familiar buildings to remember speeches. But your sleeping brain does this automatically every single night, building fantastical structures that would make any architect jealous. Some rooms have floating staircases. Others have doors that lead to different decades of your life. The basement might hold your deepest fears, while the attic stores your wildest dreams and ambitions. These nocturnal construction projects explain why you sometimes wake up with solutions to problems you couldn't solve the day before. But there's something even more comforting happening in your brain while you sleep. Your grandmother's recipe box holds more than just cooking instructions. It's actually a perfect example of how your brain stores procedural memories, those automatic skills that feel like magic once you've learned them. Ever notice how Grandma never measured anything? Her hands just knew. A pinch of this, a dash of that. That's procedural memory at work, storing motor patterns so deeply that conscious thought becomes unnecessary. These memories live in a different part of your brain than facts or events, tucked away in the cerebellum and basal ganglia like precious family heirlooms. The beautiful thing about procedural memories is how they stick around even when other memories fade. Alzheimer's patients who can't remember their own names can still play piano pieces they learned decades ago. Their fingers remember what their minds have forgotten. But here's what's really soothing. Your brain automates these skills to save energy. Riding a bike, tying shoes, brewing the perfect cup of tea. Once learned, they become as natural as breathing. No mental effort required. This automation is your brain's gift to itself. Like having a wise grandmother living in your neural pathways, quietly handling the details while you focus on bigger things. Speaking of quiet, helpers, there's actually a gentle librarian working inside your head right now. Deep inside your head sits the most organized librarian you've never met. She's been working 24/7 since you were born, quietly filing away every single thing you experience. No coffee breaks, no vacation days, just pure dedication to keeping your memories perfectly sorted. Your hippocampus doesn't just randomly stuff memories anywhere. It creates detailed filing systems that would make any real librarian weep with joy. When you smell your grandmother's cookies, this neural librarian instantly knows exactly which shelf holds that memory. She cross-references it with other cookie memories, grandmother memories, and even that time you burned cookies in college. The filing process is surprisingly methodical. New memories get temporary tags first, like books waiting to be processed. Your brain librarian examines each one carefully. Does this memory deserve permanent storage? Should it go in the frequently accessed section? Or maybe it belongs with all those random Tuesday afternoon memories that barely matter. What's wild is how she connects everything. That song you heard today gets filed near similar melodies, the emotions you felt, and even what you wore. Everything links to everything else through invisible memory threads. But here's the beautiful part about this gentle filing system. While you sleep, your brain librarian works overtime, reorganizing and strengthening the most important connections. Speaking of sleep, there's something fascinating about how memories actually travel to reach their final destinations. Long before GPS or even written maps existed, ancient cultures found brilliant ways to mark important places and preserve memories. They stacked stones. Simple, right? Well, these weren't just random piles of rocks. These stone cairns served as humanity's first external hard drives. Vikings used them to navigate foggy coastlines. Tibetan monks built them at sacred meditation spots. Native American tribes created them to mark hunting grounds and water sources. Each stone carried weight beyond its physical mass. But here's what makes this fascinating for your sleepy brain. The act of building these memory markers was deeply meditative. Picture the deliberate selection of each stone, the careful balancing, the mindful placement. Ancient people would spend hours creating these monuments, and the process itself became a form of moving meditation. Your brain loves this kind of repetitive, purposeful activity. When you stack stones, you're not just building a marker. You're literally encoding the memory into your muscle movements, your spatial awareness, your sense of balance. The Vikings knew something we're just rediscovering. Modern hikers still build cairns today, often without realizing they're participating in humanity's oldest memory preservation ritual. Each balanced stone whispers across centuries of human experience. Speaking of whispers across time, wait until you hear how our brains handle multiple languages while we sleep. Your brain is basically running the world's most sophisticated translation service, and it never takes a coffee break. When you speak multiple languages, your mind creates these beautiful, overlapping memory networks that somehow never get their wires crossed. Well, mostly never. Polyglots describe this incredible mental switching sensation, like having different radio stations playing in their head, but they can tune into whichever one they need. The funny thing is, your brain doesn't store each language in separate filing cabinets. Instead, it weaves them together in this intricate web where Spanish verb conjugations might live right next to English idioms. But here's what blows my mind. When you're dreaming in your second language, your brain has essentially decided that foreign tongue is now part of your core identity. That's some next level memory integration right there. The switching process itself is wonderfully peaceful. Your brain doesn't frantically search through dictionaries. It just flows, like water finding the right channel. Sometimes you'll reach for a word in English and grab the French version instead. Your neurons are just being helpful in their own confused way. Children who grow up bilingual develop these incredibly flexible memory pathways. Their brains become these elegant code switchers, effortlessly dancing between linguistic worlds. Speaking of dancing, wait until you discover how your brain choreographs the intricate ballet of storing physical movements. Every fall, millions of birds somehow remember flight paths they've never flown before. Young Arctic terns, barely months old, navigate from Arctic breeding grounds to Antarctic feeding areas. That's 11,000 miles of open ocean without GPS. Their brains store seasonal memory patterns that span generations. These aren't learned behaviors passed down through bird school. They're genetic memories, encoded in neural pathways like nature's own hard drive. The fascinating part? Their memory systems mirror ours more than we realize. Squirrels remember where they buried hundreds of nuts months earlier. Bears wake up from hibernation knowing exactly which berry patches ripen first. Even plants remember seasonal changes, adjusting their growth patterns based on previous year's weather data stored in their cellular memory. But here's what gets really interesting about these natural cycles. Human memory follows similar seasonal rhythms. Research shows we remember summer experiences more vividly than winter ones. Our brains literally process memories differently based on daylight exposure and temperature changes. During longer winter nights, our memory consolidation actually improves. The extended darkness triggers deeper sleep cycles, giving our brains more time for that peaceful memory filing we talked about earlier. Makes sense why hibernating animals evolved such incredible memory systems, right? They needed to remember survival patterns across months of unconsciousness. Speaking of incredible memory preservation, ancient monks developed their own fascinating techniques for storing vast amounts of knowledge. Medieval monks possessed memory abilities that would make today's smartphone users weep with envy. These robed scholars could recite entire books of the Bible from memory, not just a few verses. We're talking complete gospels, word for word, without missing a single thou or begat. Brother Augustine might memorize the entire book of Psalms while you struggle to remember where you left your car keys. Makes sense, right? Their secret wasn't divine intervention. Well, not entirely. These monks developed memory techniques that modern neuroscience now confirms as brilliant. They'd walk through their monastery, imagining each room filled with verses. The chapel held Matthew, the kitchen stored Mark, The garden grew Luke's gospel like spiritual vegetables. But here's what's truly relaxing about their method. They made memory a meditation. Each repetition became a prayer. Every verse carved deeper neural pathways while simultaneously bringing peace to their minds. They weren't cramming for exams. They were creating sacred mental sanctuaries. The rhythmic chanting helped too. Repetition with melody works like cognitive glue, binding information to memory through multiple senses. These monks essentially turned their brains into living libraries, complete with peaceful reading rooms where knowledge rested safely. Their dedication created something beautiful: human hard drives powered by devotion rather than electricity. Speaking of natural memory systems, certain creatures developed even more impressive abilities. Your grandmother's hands moved with practiced precision across the fabric, creating patterns that would outlast her lifetime. Those quilts weren't just blankets. They were memory storage devices disguised as art. The human brain works remarkably like a quilter's mind. We constantly search for patterns in everything we experience. Your morning coffee routine? Pattern. The way your friend always laughs at the same type of joke? Pattern. That feeling of déjà vu when you walk into a new restaurant? Your brain found something familiar in an unfamiliar place. Here's what's fascinating. Pattern recognition happens faster than conscious thought. Your brain processes visual patterns in just 13 milliseconds. That's quicker than you can blink. Meanwhile, those quilting grandmothers spent months perfecting their designs, stitching memories of family gatherings, seasonal changes, and personal milestones into geometric beauty. Each quilt square told a story. Wedding dresses became white triangles. Baby clothes transformed into pastel borders. Father's work shirts found new life as sturdy backing fabric. The repetitive motion of quilting actually triggered the same meditative brain state that helps consolidate memories. But here's the clever part. Quilters didn't just preserve fabric scraps. They encoded family history into mathematical precision. Those intricate patterns required spatial memory, muscle memory, and emotional memory working together in perfect harmony. Speaking of harmony, there's another type of memory that operates on completely different principles. Remember when your phone knew every birthday, but you couldn't recall your neighbor's name? That's our new reality. And honestly, it's not entirely bad news. Your brain has basically gone on a diet. Not the kind where you lose weight, but where you lose the need to remember phone numbers, addresses, and random trivia. Why? Because your smartphone became your external hard drive. Back in the day, taxi drivers in London had incredibly thick hippocampuses. All those winding streets carved neural highways in their brains. Then GPS showed up, and suddenly their brains started shrinking back to normal size. The brain tissue literally changed because the job got outsourced to satellites. But here's what's fascinating. We're not becoming dumber. We're becoming different kinds of smart. Your great-grandmother could recite entire poems and remember detailed directions across town. You can barely remember your own social security number, yet you can navigate complex digital interfaces and process information faster than any generation before you. The trade-off isn't necessarily tragic. It's just different. Your brain has decided that remembering where information lives matters more than memorizing the information itself, like having a really good librarian instead of being the entire library. Speaking of libraries, there's something almost poetic about how our ancestors handled the massive task of memorizing entire religious texts. Remember collecting shells at the beach as a kid? Those tiny treasures scattered across the sand, each one perfect and waiting to be discovered. Well, your childhood memories work exactly the same way. Early memories shimmer in and out like water in tide pools. One moment they're crystal clear. You can smell your grandmother's cookies or feel the rough bark of your favorite climbing tree. The next moment, they're gone, slipped away like minnows darting between the rocks. This gentle fading isn't a flaw in your brain's design. It's actually protective. Your mind naturally lets the sharp edges of difficult childhood moments soften over time. That scraped knee from falling off your bike. The fear dissolves, but the joy of riding remains. Scientists call this childhood amnesia, but there's nothing wrong with your memory. Your brain was simply too busy growing to file everything permanently. Think about it. You were learning to walk, talk, and make sense of a confusing world. No wonder some details got swept away. The memories that stick around, they're usually the ones wrapped in strong emotion. Your first pet, holiday mornings, summer afternoons that seem to last forever. These golden moments crystallize like amber, preserving something precious inside. But here's what's truly fascinating about how your brain decides which memories deserve permanent residence. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, the Quiapo people have something most of us have lost: memory keepers. These aren't just storytellers. They're living libraries who carry thousands of years of knowledge in their minds. Plant medicines, seasonal patterns, creation stories, all stored without a single written word. Makes our smartphones look pretty pathetic, right? The Quiapo memory keepers undergo decades of training. They learn to organize information using the forest itself as their memory palace. That massive Cecropia tree? It holds stories about the first rains. The bend in the river? That's where medicinal plant knowledge lives. But here's what blew my mind when I first learned this. These memory keepers don't just preserve information, they transform it. Each time a story gets passed down, it adapts slightly to current needs while keeping its core wisdom intact. It's like having a living, breathing Wikipedia that actually gets smarter over time. The ceremonies themselves are incredibly peaceful. Elders sit in circles, voices rising and falling in hypnotic rhythms. Young people listen with their entire bodies, absorbing not just words, but breathing patterns, hand gestures, even the precise timing of pauses. This isn't just about preserving the past. These memory rituals create something magical that happens every night in your own mind. When your parents tucked you into bed with Once Upon a Time, they weren't just telling stories. They were literally building your brain, one gentle word at a time. Bedtime stories create something neuroscientists call narrative scaffolding. Every night, as mom or dad's voice flows through familiar fairy tales, your developing brain learns to organize memories into meaningful sequences. The repetition isn't boring. It's brilliant architecture for your mind. Here's what blew my mind. Children who hear regular bedtime stories show stronger memory pathways by age 5. The rhythm of storytelling mirrors how our brains naturally store experiences: beginning, middle, end, problem, journey, resolution. Your hippocampus loves this structure. But the magic ingredient isn't the story itself, it's the voice. That calm, loving tone creates what researchers call a safe encoding environment. When you feel secure, your brain opens up like a flower, ready to absorb and store new information. Stress hormones drop, learning hormones rise. The gentle repetition of favorite stories strengthens neural pathways through pure repetition. Kids who hear Goldilocks 50 times aren't being lazy. They're doing serious brain training. Each retelling deepens the memory grooves, making pattern recognition stronger. Even the physical closeness matters. Cuddling releases oxytocin, which enhances memory formation. Those cozy story sessions are literally bonding memories into your brain's foundation. Speaking of foundations, your brain has its own internal compass system that's far more sophisticated than any GPS. Your brain is basically a master cartographer, constantly drawing invisible maps of every place you've ever been. These mental blueprints are so detailed, they'd make Google Maps jealous. The hippocampus acts like your personal GPS designer, creating spatial memories that stick around for decades. Remember your childhood bedroom? You could probably navigate it blindfolded right now, even if the furniture got rearranged 20 years ago. That's your brain's mapping system showing off. But here's what gets fascinating. Your mental compass doesn't just remember where things are. It remembers how you felt walking through those spaces, the nervous excitement of your first day at a new school, the comfort of grandma's kitchen during summer visits. Ancient sailors used star patterns to cross oceans without any instruments. Their brains literally memorized the night sky like a giant connect-the-dots puzzle. These guys could pinpoint their location just by looking up at Orion's belt. Talk about built-in navigation skills. Your spatial memories even work in dreams. Ever notice how dream locations feel familiar, even when they're completely made up? Your sleeping brain borrows pieces from real places, creating hybrid maps that feel strangely authentic. The coolest part? These mental maps never really fade. They just wait patiently in your memory palace, ready to guide you home whenever you need them. Speaking of memory palaces, there's something magical about how merchants in ancient bazaars use these very techniques. Walking through the bustling bazaars of ancient Persia, merchants navigated a complex web of relationships without writing a single note. These traders possessed memories so sharp they could recall every detail of hundreds of customers, their families, preferences, and credit histories spanning decades. Here's what made them extraordinary. They transformed business into personal stories. Instead of remembering Ahmed owes 50 dinars, they remembered Ahmed with the limp, whose daughter married the spice seller, still needs to pay for those silk scarves from the wedding. Every transaction became part of an ongoing narrative. The social fabric of these markets relied entirely on remembered trust. A merchant's reputation lived in the collective memory of the community. One broken promise could echo through generations of trading relationships. But here's where it gets fascinating. They used the physical bazaar itself as a memory palace. Walking past the carpet stall triggered memories of textile customers. The scent of cardamom reminded them of spice traders' debts. Location, smell, and story intertwined into an unbreakable memory system. The peaceful rhythm of negotiation followed remembered patterns. Each conversation built on layers of past interactions, creating trust through accumulated memory rather than written contracts. These merchants understood something we've forgotten. Relationships are living memory systems that grow stronger through gentle, repeated interaction. Speaking of gentle systems, there's something equally fascinating about how our brains sometimes create memories that never actually happened. Your brain is surprisingly creative when it comes to making things up. False memories aren't mistakes or signs of mental weakness. They're actually your mind's way of protecting you and filling in gaps with beautiful, comforting fiction. When researchers first discovered how easily false memories form, they were amazed. People could be convinced they were lost in a mall as children, even when it never happened. The brain doesn't just record events like a video camera, it reconstructs memories each time you recall them, adding details that feel right. This reconstruction process serves a purpose. Sometimes the truth is too harsh, so your mind softens the edges. That argument with your friend? Your brain might remember you being more reasonable than you actually were. The embarrassing moment from high school? Your memory probably downplays how awkward it really was. False memories can even be therapeutic. Trauma survivors sometimes develop protective false memories that help them cope. The brain creates gentler versions of difficult experiences, allowing healing to begin. Even shared false memories exist. Entire families can remember events that never occurred, each person's retelling reinforcing the fiction until it becomes accepted truth. These collective false memories often center around happy occasions, creating bonds through beautiful lies. Your memory isn't a perfect recorder, and that's actually wonderful. But speaking of memory's imperfections, there's something magical happening in your brain every single night. When darkness falls and you slip into sleep, something magical happens inside your skull. Your brain doesn't just shut down for the night. Instead, it becomes a busy construction site where memories get their permanent makeover. The moonlight streaming through your window isn't just romantic lighting. Throughout history, humans have linked lunar cycles to sleep quality, and honestly, they weren't wrong. Before electric lights turned night into artificial day, our ancestors synced their sleep with natural darkness. Their brains had longer, deeper periods for memory work. During those peaceful midnight hours, your hippocampus starts its nightly renovation project. Think of it like a team of tiny librarians sorting through the day's experiences. They decide what stays in long-term storage and what gets tossed in the mental recycling bin. That embarrassing thing you said at lunch, your brain might actually help you forget it by morning. What a thoughtful roommate your hippocampus makes. The protein synthesis happening right now in your sleeping brain is like construction workers laying concrete foundations. Each important memory gets reinforced with stronger neural pathways. Your brain literally rebuilds itself every night while you dream about flying or showing up to work in your pajamas. But here's what makes this whole process even more fascinating. Your brain doesn't just randomly strengthen memories during these moonlit hours. Your brain doesn't just store memories like files in a cabinet. It weaves them together like a master craftsperson creating an intricate tapestry. Every single memory connects to dozens of others through invisible threads of association. When you smell fresh bread, your mind instantly pulls up threads linking to childhood kitchens, your grandmother's hands, that bakery from your honeymoon, and even that random Tuesday when you felt particularly happy. These aren't separate memories competing for space. They're all part of one beautiful, interconnected web. The hippocampus acts like a skilled weaver, constantly threading new experiences through existing patterns. It finds the perfect spots where new memories can anchor themselves to old ones. Sometimes, the connections seem completely random. Why does hearing a certain song remind you of that math test from seventh grade? Because your brain noticed something you didn't, maybe the same nervous energy or the way sunlight hit the window. This weaving process happens mostly during sleep. While you're dreaming, your mind works like a night shift textile artist, strengthening some threads and letting others fade. The memories that get woven most tightly into the tapestry are the ones that survive longest. But here's what makes this process even more fascinating. Sometimes your brain creates entirely new patterns while you're gently drifting off to sleep. Rain has a magical effect on memory formation that goes way beyond just making everything smell amazing. When you listen to gentle rainfall, your brain actually shifts into a different gear for processing and storing memories. The steady rhythm of raindrops creates what researchers call pink noise, a specific frequency that helps your brain waves synchronize. Think of it like a natural metronome for your neurons. This rhythmic pattern encourages your hippocampus to work more efficiently, almost like the rain is giving your memory center a gentle massage. But here's where it gets really interesting. Rainy weather naturally lowers barometric pressure, which affects the electrical activity in your brain. Lower pressure means your neurons fire in a more relaxed, coordinated pattern. It's like your brain suddenly has better Wi-Fi for connecting different memory networks. People have known this instinctively for centuries. Ever notice how you get your best thinking done during thunderstorms? There's a reason why so many writers and artists swear by rainy day productivity. The combination of negative ions in the air and that soothing white noise creates perfect conditions for deep memory work. Rainy days also eliminate distractions. No one's calling you to go outside. No sunshine guilt. Just you, your thoughts, and the peaceful percussion of water on windows. Speaking of natural memory enhancers, there's an entire world of plants that have been helping human memory for thousands of years. Medieval monks weren't just copying manuscripts all day. They were cultivating actual memory gardens filled with herbs that supposedly boosted their recall. Rosemary wasn't just for seasoning mutton. It was brain food. These monastery gardens were like ancient pharmacies for the mind. Ginkgo trees stood tall in corners, their fan-shaped leaves rustling with promises of sharper memory. Sage grew in neat rows, earning its name from the Latin salvere, meaning to save. The monks believed it could literally save their memories from fading. But here's what's fascinating. Modern research suggests some of these old remedies actually work. Ginkgo does improve blood flow to the brain. Rosemary contains compounds that may protect neurons from damage. Those medieval monks were onto something real. The peaceful routine of tending these memory gardens became a meditation itself. Monks would walk the herb-lined paths at dawn, breathing in the aromatic wisdom of centuries. They'd harvest leaves for teas, dry flowers for sachets, and press oils for temple massages. Each plant had its purpose. Gotu kola for clarity, bacopa for retention, holy basil for stress relief, because stressed minds don't remember well. The garden became a living pharmacy, where knowledge literally grew from the ground up. These ancient gardeners understood something we're just rediscovering. That memory enhancement isn't always about technique. Sometimes it's about nurturing the vessel itself. Speaking of vessels, there's something remarkable about how our ancestors built entire buildings specifically designed to help human memory flourish. Medieval cathedral builders weren't just creating places of worship, they were designing massive memory machines. These towering stone structures served as three-dimensional textbooks for people who couldn't read. Walking through a Gothic cathedral was like strolling through someone's mind palace. Every arch, every carved figure, every stained glass window held specific information. Monks would memorize entire biblical stories by associating them with particular pillars or alcoves. The stone gargoyles weren't just decoration, they were bookmarks for the brain. Here's what's fascinating. These buildings actually changed how people's memories worked. The high vaulted ceilings and echoing acoustics created a sensory environment that enhanced recall. Your brain naturally remembers better in spaces that feel significant and awe-inspiring. Cathedral. Architects understood something modern neuroscience confirms. Spatial memory is incredibly powerful. When you tie information to a specific location, especially one with emotional impact, that memory becomes nearly unshakable. Medieval students would walk through these stone memory palaces in their minds during exams. They'd mentally visit the chapel where they'd learned about forgiveness, or the nave where they'd studied mathematics. The peaceful grandeur of these spaces wasn't accidental. The quiet, reverent atmosphere helped memories settle and strengthen. Even today, stepping into an old cathedral triggers something deep in your brain's memory centers. But what happens when your memory palace isn't made of stone? Have you ever wondered what happens to memories that seem completely lost forever? Well, turns out your brain is like a really messy archaeological dig site. And sometimes, the most precious artifacts are buried under layers of everyday mental debris. Memory archaeologists, okay, they're actually therapists and neuroscientists, have discovered that supposedly vanished memories often aren't gone at all. They're just hiding. Like that one sock that disappears in the laundry, except way more important and definitely not under your bed. The process of recovering lost memories is surprisingly gentle. Unlike Indiana Jones dramatically yanking treasures from ancient tombs, real memory excavation requires patience. Therapists use techniques like guided imagery and careful questioning to slowly brush away the mental dust covering buried experiences. But here's what's fascinating. Sometimes, forgetting is actually your brain's way of protecting you. Those lost childhood memories, your mind might have deliberately filed them away in a safe place, waiting until you're ready to handle them again. The most effective memory recovery happens during deeply relaxed states. Your conscious mind stops being such a control freak, and deeper memories can surface naturally. It's like turning down the radio so you can finally hear someone whispering important secrets from the back seat. Speaking of whispers, did you know that certain tiny lights can actually trigger long dormant memories in the most magical way? There's something magical about chasing fireflies on a warm summer evening. Those tiny flashing lights dancing through the darkness create memories that last a lifetime. But why do these simple moments burn so brightly in our minds? Well, our brains are basically memory hoarders when it comes to childhood wonder. Those firefly nights aren't just cute memories, they're neurological jackpots. The combination of novelty, emotion, and sensory richness creates what scientists call flashbulb memories. Think about it. You're 7 years old, barefoot in the grass, giggling as you cup your hands around a glowing bug. Your brain is firing on all cylinders. Visual cortex processing the magical light, motor cortex coordinating the chase, emotional centers flooding with joy. It's like your hippocampus is throwing a party and everyone's invited. Here's the beautiful part. These memories get stronger with time, not weaker. Every time you recall that summer evening, your brain reinforces the neural pathways. The laughter echoes louder. The grass feels softer. The fireflies glow brighter. Makes sense why adults get nostalgic for simpler times, right? Those firefly memories represent pure, uncomplicated happiness. No bills to pay, no deadlines to meet, just you, the twilight, and nature's tiny lanterns. But here's where memory gets really interesting. Sometimes what we remember isn't exactly what happened. Your brain is basically running a chemistry lab 24/7. But here's what's fascinating. Memories aren't stored like files on a computer. They're actually rebuilt every single time you remember something. Think about your favorite childhood birthday party. Every time that memory pops up, your neurons literally reconstruct it from scratch using different chemical reactions. It's like having a chef who never follows the exact same recipe twice, but somehow the cake still tastes like birthday cake. The wild part. Each time you remember something, you're actually changing it slightly. Those memory molecules, proteins called CREB and BDNF, they're constantly mixing new ingredients into old recipes. Your brain is essentially playing telephone with itself, and somehow it works. Scientists discovered that memories get stronger or weaker based on which chemicals show up to the party. Too much stress hormone cortisol? Your memory recipe gets bitter. But add some dopamine from a good laugh. Suddenly, that memory becomes sweeter and sticks around longer. This molecular cooking show never stops. Right now, proteins are folding and unfolding in your hippocampus, deciding which memories deserve the premium storage treatment and which ones get tossed in the mental recycling bin. But what happens when your brain's cleanup crew goes to work during sleep? That's where things get really interesting. Ancient cultures believed the moon controlled more than just ocean tides. They thought it governed the rhythm of human memory itself. Grandmother Moon, as many indigenous peoples called her, was considered the keeper of collective wisdom. When the moon waxed full, elders would gather children around fires to share the most important stories. They believed full moon nights made memories stick better, like wet clay holding its shape. Turns out, they might have been onto something. Modern sleep research shows that moonlight can actually mess with our natural sleep cycles. Brighter nights mean lighter sleep, which affects how our brains sort through the day's experiences. But here's what's fascinating. People in pre-industrial times often followed lunar schedules for learning and remembering. They'd time important ceremonies, storytelling sessions, and even marriage proposals around specific moon phases. The new moon was for quiet reflection, while the full moon was for celebration and shared memories. Tibetan monks still follow lunar calendars for their most intensive meditation retreats. They claim certain moon phases make it easier to access deep, peaceful states, where old memories surface like bubbles in still water. Even today, emergency room doctors notice more unusual behavior during full moons. Makes you wonder if our ancestors were tracking something real about lunar influence on consciousness. Speaking of ancient wisdom about memory, there's something equally mesmerizing about how rhythm and poetry work together. There's something magical about reciting poetry from memory. The ancient Greeks knew this secret well. They didn't just memorize epic poems for entertainment. They discovered that rhythm and rhyme create perfect pathways in the brain. When you learn a poem by heart, your mind follows the gentle cadence like a meditation. Each stressed syllable becomes a stepping stone. Each rhyme creates a neural anchor. Shakespeare's sonnets weren't just beautiful. They were memory machines designed to stick in your head forever. Buddhist monks have chanted memorized verses for thousands of years, not because they lacked books, but because the repetitive rhythm calms the mind. The steady beat of iambic pentameter actually synchronizes with your resting heart rate. Makes sense why poetry feels so soothing, right? Here's what's fascinating. Your brain processes memorized poetry differently than regular speech. The rhythm activates both hemispheres simultaneously, creating stronger neural connections. That's why you can remember song lyrics from decades ago, but forget where you put your keys yesterday. Children who memorize nursery rhymes develop better language skills and memory capacity. Those simple verses about sheep and stars aren't just cute. They're building highways and developing brains. Professional actors use this ancient wisdom too. They memorize Shakespeare not just for performance, but because the rhythmic patterns actually enhance their overall memory abilities. The gentle repetition becomes a form of moving meditation. But what happens when your brain stores these poetic patterns during sleep? Deep beneath the ocean's surface, something extraordinary happens to memories. They transform under pressure, just like oysters creating pearls around tiny irritants. Your brain works the same way. Those difficult moments, the awkward conversations, embarrassing mishaps, painful experiences, your mind wraps them in layers of understanding over time. What once felt sharp becomes smooth and valuable. Scientists have discovered that emotional pressure actually strengthens memory formation. Stress hormones like cortisol, in small doses, act like the ocean's gentle pressure on developing pearls. They help memories crystallize into something lasting and beautiful. But here's what's fascinating. The most precious memory pearls form slowly. That childhood trauma that haunted you for years might eventually become your greatest source of wisdom. The heartbreak that felt unbearable transforms into deep empathy for others. Your hippocampus acts like the ocean floor, providing a stable foundation where these memory pearls can develop undisturbed. During sleep, cerebrospinal fluid gently bathes these forming memories, adding layer upon layer of meaning. The Japanese have a beautiful concept called kintsugi, repairing broken pottery with gold. Your brain does something similar with difficult memories. It doesn't hide the cracks, it makes them beautiful. Sometimes the most luminous pearls come from the deepest, darkest places in our memory ocean. Speaking of darkness, there's something magical about how your body remembers without your mind even knowing. Your fingers know exactly where every key sits on your phone, even in complete darkness. That's muscle memory at work, and it operates like a silent monastery where monks have perfected their movements through decades of practice. Professional pianists can play entire concerts while their conscious minds wander to grocery lists or weekend plans. Their fingers dance across keys with zero mental effort because the motor cortex has created permanent pathways that bypass conscious thought entirely. It's like having an autopilot system that never needs maintenance. Ballet dancers demonstrate this beautifully. A prima ballerina performing 32 fouettes isn't counting each turn or calculating balance adjustments. Her body remembers every micro movement from thousands of practice sessions. The cerebellum stores these movement patterns like a vast library of physical poems, each one perfectly preserved and instantly accessible. Athletes call it being in the zone. But really, it's just their muscle memory taking complete control. Basketball players sink free throws without thinking about elbow position or follow through. Their bodies have memorized the exact sequence so thoroughly that conscious interference actually makes them perform worse. Your grandmother's hands remember how to knead bread dough, even if she hasn't baked in years. Those neural pathways remain intact, waiting patiently, like sleeping guardians. Speaking of guardians, there's something equally fascinating about how your brain maintains its nightly vigil over precious memories while you sleep. Ancient trees are essentially walking libraries, and their memory system puts our smartphones to shame. Every year, these gentle giants record detailed information about rainfall, temperature, droughts, and even volcanic eruptions in their growth rings. One ring equals 1 year of environmental data, perfectly preserved. The oldest living tree, a bristlecone pine named Methuselah, has been quietly documenting climate for over 4,700 years. That's longer than recorded human history. While we struggle to remember what we had for breakfast, this tree remembers every single season since the pyramids were built. But here's where it gets fascinating. Trees don't just store their own memories, they share them. Through underground fungal networks, mother trees pass survival information to their offspring. They literally teach younger trees which nutrients to seek and which dangers to avoid. Japanese researchers discovered that trees can remember drought conditions for up to 5 years, adjusting their growth patterns accordingly. They're basically doing what we do when we remember to bring an umbrella after getting soaked last week. Except their umbrella is complex root restructuring. The most incredible part? When trees are stressed, they release chemical signals that warn neighboring trees to prepare their defenses. It's like a neighborhood watch program that's been running for millions of years. While trees master generational memory through rings and roots, human families have developed their own fascinating systems for passing down memories through something equally intricate yet completely different. Medieval scribes possessed something we've completely lost in our digital age. They could copy entire manuscripts from memory after reading them just once or twice. But their secret wasn't superhuman brains. It was art. These monks didn't just write words on parchment. They painted elaborate dragons curling around capital letters, golden halos surrounding sacred names, and intricate borders filled with dancing rabbits and musical angels. Every illumination served a purpose beyond beauty. The dragon coiled around the letter marked where a new chapter began. The rabbit meant, "Remember this parable about humility." The angel's harp indicated a song should be chanted here. Each colorful detail acted like a mental bookmark, anchoring memories in vivid, unforgettable images. Brother Augustine might spend months copying the Book of Psalms, but he'd never forget Psalm 23 because it featured a shepherd painted in brilliant blue robes. The 23rd Psalm would forever be the blue shepherd page in his mind. Modern research confirms what these scribes knew instinctively. When we attach visual imagery to information, our recall improves by over 300%. The more bizarre or colorful the image, the stickier the memory becomes. Then there's the meditative aspect of their work. Hours spent in silent concentration, carefully forming each letter, naturally enhance their ability to retain what they copied. Speaking of enhanced memory through rhythm and repetition, there's something magical about those golden hours between day and night. You know that dreamy time when the world seems to slow down? Well, your brain is doing something pretty incredible during twilight. Scientists have discovered that dusk triggers a unique cocktail of hormones that actually enhances memory formation. As sunlight fades, your brain starts producing more melatonin. But here's what's fascinating. Before melatonin makes you sleepy, it acts like a gentle curator, helping your mind sort through the day's experiences. Think about it. How many of your strongest memories happen during those peaceful evening hours? Walking home from school as a kid, sitting on porches with grandparents, those quiet conversations that somehow stick with you forever. The declining light signals your hippocampus to shift into what researchers playfully call twilight mode. Your brain becomes more reflective, more contemplative. It's like having a built-in meditation timer that goes off every evening. Ancient cultures knew this instinctively. They saved their most important storytelling for dusk. Elders would gather children as shadows grew long, understanding that twilight created the perfect conditions for memories to take root. Even today, many people report their clearest thinking happens during these in-between moments. There's something about that soft, golden light that makes everything feel more meaningful, more memorable. But what happens when complete darkness finally arrives and your brain settles into its deeper work? Your brain has the most devoted curator working 24/7, and you've never met them. This mental museum director spends every moment carefully organizing your experiences into perfect exhibitions. Right now, as you read this, they're deciding which memories deserve the prime real estate in your long-term storage halls. Think about walking through a world-class museum. Each room tells a story. Each artifact sits precisely where it belongs. Your brain's curator works exactly like this, except instead of ancient pottery, they're arranging your first kiss, that embarrassing moment from third grade, and what you had for breakfast Tuesday. Here's what makes this curator absolutely brilliant. They don't just dump everything into random storage boxes like most of us do with our garages. Instead, they create themed exhibitions. Your childhood summers get their own wing. Work memories live in a completely different building. Family stories have an entire floor dedicated to them. The weirdest part? This curator never sleeps. While you're dreaming about flying purple elephants, they're backstage rearranging exhibits, moving important memories to better lighting, quietly discarding ticket stubs from movies you'll never think about again. They even create special traveling exhibitions for memories that need to visit multiple departments. But their most impressive skill involves something even more mysterious than organization itself. Your grandmother's shawl wasn't just keeping her warm. It was a memory storage device more sophisticated than any computer hard drive. Every stitch held a story. Each pattern carried the weight of generations. The cable knit that runs down the center? That's the same design her great-grandmother used in Ireland, modified slightly when she arrived in America with nothing but yarn and determination. Traditional knitters didn't follow written patterns. They memorized everything. Complex Fair Isle designs with dozens of color changes lived entirely in their minds. Norwegian fishermen's wives could knit intricate patterns in complete darkness, their fingers dancing through sequences learned in childhood. Makes sense, right? Their hands became libraries. But here's where textile memory gets fascinating. Different cultures encoded completely different information systems into their fabrics. Peruvian quipas used knotted strings to record mathematical data and historical events. Inca accountants could read tax records from textile patterns. Meanwhile, in Scotland, each clan had distinctive tartan patterns that served as visual identification systems. The repetitive motion of knitting actually changes brain chemistry. The bilateral movement creates the same meditative state as prayer beads or rosaries. Your grandmother wasn't just making sweaters. She was literally rewiring her neural pathways for better memory formation. Even today, when everything's digital, there's something about working with your hands that unlocks deeper memory storage. But speaking of ancient wisdom keepers, deep in the mountains of ancient Tibet, village oracles sat beside sacred wells, their memories containing entire lifetimes of community wisdom. These weren't your typical fortune tellers with crystal balls and dramatic predictions. They were living libraries. The oracle's mind worked like a vast filing cabinet, but way more interesting. Every birth, every harvest failure, every successful remedy for the village's sick animals, all stored in one human brain. When someone needed guidance, the oracle would close her eyes, lean over the memory well, and somehow pull up exactly the right information from decades past. Here's what gets fascinating about these memory keepers. They develop techniques that modern neuroscience is only now understanding. The oracle would associate each important memory with a specific physical sensation. The coolness of the well's edge, the sound of wind through prayer flags, even the taste of butter tea during important conversations. Their brains literally rewired themselves to become community hard drives. But here's the twist. They never wrote anything down. The act of remembering was considered sacred, almost like a meditation practice. Each time they recalled a piece of village history, they strengthened that neural pathway, making the memory even more vivid. The gentle repetition of storytelling wasn't just entertainment, it was data backup, human style. But what happens when our own minds try to access memories during sleep? Your mind operates like a gentle river, constantly flowing with thoughts and memories. This isn't just poetic imagery. Neuroscientists have discovered that consciousness literally streams through your brain in wave-like patterns. Unlike a rushing torrent, these mental currents move with surprising grace. The fascinating part, your brain processes roughly 60,000 thoughts per day, but most slip by unnoticed. Think of trying to catch individual water droplets in a flowing stream. Nearly impossible, right? Yet some memories stick, while others dissolve completely. Here's what's really wild about this mental river system. Your hippocampus acts like a sophisticated filter, deciding which experiences deserve to become permanent residents in your memory palace. The rejected thoughts simply flow downstream and vanish forever. But here's where it gets wonderfully weird. During REM sleep, this stream reverses direction. Memories that seemed forgotten suddenly resurface, like salmon swimming upstream. Your brain literally replays the day's experiences in reverse order, strengthening important connections while letting trivial details wash away. Ancient philosophers compared consciousness to flowing water thousands of years before we understood the neuroscience behind it. They somehow intuited that thoughts behave like liquid, constantly moving and reshaping themselves. The gentle current never stops, even when you're fast asleep. Speaking of nighttime brain activity, wait until you discover how moonlight has influenced human memory for centuries. Tonight, let me take you to an enchanted moonlit garden where memories bloom like night-flowering jasmine. This isn't just any ordinary garden. This is where our mind's memory keeper tends to the most precious moments of our lives. Memory keepers have existed across cultures for thousands of years. They understood something we're just rediscovering. Plants and memories share an incredible connection. Rosemary for remembrance wasn't just poetic nonsense. The herb actually contains compounds that boost memory function. Makes sense, right? Medieval monasteries planted entire gardens dedicated to memory enhancement. Monks would walk these paths while memorizing scripture, letting the scents of sage and mint sharpen their minds. The repetitive motion of walking, combined with aromatic stimulation, created perfect conditions for encoding information. But here's what's fascinating. Your brain treats memory formation like gardening. Some memories get planted deep, like oak trees. Others are more like annual flowers, beautiful but temporary. The hippocampus acts like a master gardener, deciding which experiences deserve permanent plots. Japanese gardens take this concept further. They're designed as three-dimensional memory palaces. Every stone, every carefully placed moss patch triggers specific recollections. Walking through them becomes a meditation on remembrance itself. The night air carries these garden scents differently, activating memory pathways while you sleep. Speaking of celestial navigation, ancient sailors discovered something remarkable about using stars as memory anchors. Long before GPS existed, sailors navigated vast oceans using nothing but stars. These ancient mariners didn't just memorize a few constellations. They carried entire celestial libraries in their heads. Polynesian navigators could remember the position of over 200 stars. That's like memorizing a phone book, except this phone book kept you from dying at sea. They knew which stars rose at specific times, how they moved across the sky, and what each twinkle meant for their journey. The crazy part? They passed this knowledge down through generations without writing anything down. Fathers taught sons by pointing at the night sky and telling stories. Each star had a personality, a legend, a reason to remember it. These sailors basically turned the entire sky into the world's first memory palace. The Big Dipper wasn't just pretty dots. It was a roadmap home. Polaris wasn't just the North Star. It was their best friend who never moved. Modern neuroscience shows us why this works so well. When we attach stories and emotions to information, our brains create stronger memory pathways. Those ancient navigators accidentally discovered the perfect memory technique. But stars weren't the only navigation tool these memory masters used. The gentle rhythm of ocean swells held secrets that could guide ships across thousands of miles. Your breath right now is doing something incredible for your memory. Every inhale and exhale creates a gentle rhythm that your brain uses to organize and strengthen memories. Ancient yogis knew this connection thousands of years ago, but modern research has finally caught up. When you breathe slowly and deeply, your brain waves actually synchronize with your breathing pattern. It's like your lungs are conducting an orchestra inside your skull. The hippocampus, your brain's memory center, has neurons that fire in perfect timing with your breath. Inhale, and these cells get ready to encode new information. Exhale, and they consolidate what you've just learned. Makes sense why meditation teachers always tell you to focus on breathing, right? Well, here's something that might surprise you. People who practice controlled breathing remember 20% more information than those who breathe randomly. That's not just correlation. It's your respiratory system literally tuning your memory like a radio. The vagus nerve connects your breathing to your brain's emotional centers. Slow breathing triggers the release of acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter that sharpens focus and enhances memory formation. Fast, shallow breathing does the opposite, creating stress hormones that scramble your ability to remember clearly. Buddhist monks discovered they could memorize entire texts by matching their breathing to specific rhythms. Each breath became a bookmark in their mental library. But there's another sound pattern that works even more powerfully than breathing alone. Deep in monasteries around the world, bells ring at precise intervals, not just for prayer times, but because those ancient monks discovered something remarkable about sound and memory. When you hear a bell, your brain doesn't just process the sound. It creates what researchers call an acoustic anchor, a neurological bookmark that helps organize everything happening in that moment. Pretty clever for guys in robes, right? The frequency of traditional temple bells, usually around 250 to 400 hertz, hits the exact sweet spot for memory formation. Your hippocampus literally perks up when it hears these tones. It's like your brain's filing system suddenly gets better lighting. Here's the fascinating part. Monks who lived by bell schedules for decades developed extraordinary memory capabilities. They could recite entire texts, remember complex philosophical arguments, and recall conversations from years past. The bells weren't just calling them to prayer, they were training their brains. But you don't need a monastery to use this trick. Any consistent, pleasant sound can become your memory bell. Wind chimes, grandfather clocks, even your coffee maker's morning gurgle. The key is repetition and positive association. Modern sleep clinics are rediscovering this ancient wisdom. They're finding that gentle, rhythmic sounds during rest periods actually help memories solidify. Speaking of sleep and memory formation, there's another medieval practice that'll surprise you. Medieval monks had the most impressive memory tricks you've never heard of. These guys could memorize entire books without breaking a sweat, and they did it all by candlelight in freezing cold monasteries. Talk about dedication. The secret weapon, something called memoria verborum, word-for-word memorization that made modern students look like amateurs. Monks would copy manuscripts by hand. But here's the clever part. They weren't just copying. They were programming their brains. Brother Francis would sit in his cell, quill in hand, copying the same passage 7 times. Not because he was slow, but because repetition at this specific rhythm created neural pathways stronger than steel cables. The 7th copy was always perfect, written entirely from memory. But wait, there's more genius at work. These scribes used what they called luminous letters. They'd mentally highlight certain words with imaginary gold leaf. When recalling text later, these golden anchors would pop up like spiritual GPS markers. The most successful memory monks had a peculiar habit. They'd rock gently while memorizing, creating a physical rhythm that matched their mental rhythm. This swaying motion actually synchronized both brain hemispheres, making recall effortless. Here's what gets really interesting, though. They discovered something about breathing patterns that modern sleep researchers are just now catching up with. Your brain treats emotional memories like precious cargo. When something makes you laugh until your stomach hurts or brings tears to your eyes, special neurochemicals flood your system. These chemicals act like highlighter pens, marking those moments as definitely worth keeping forever. But here's what's fascinating. Your emotions don't just help create memories, They literally change how those memories get stored. Happy memories tend to cluster together in your brain, while painful ones get wrapped in protective layers. It's like your mind knows exactly which experiences need gentle handling. The amygdala, your brain's emotion center, works overtime during intense feelings. Well, it basically screams at your hippocampus saying, "Hey, pay attention to this." The stronger the emotion, the louder that internal alarm gets. That's why you can remember exactly where you were when something amazing happened, but forget what you had for lunch last Tuesday. Your brain even has this clever trick where it softens traumatic memories over time. The sharp edges gradually blur, while the lessons learned remain crystal clear. Makes sense, right? You need to remember that fire burns without feeling the full intensity of that childhood accident every single time. The most beautiful part? Positive emotions actually help repair damaged memory pathways. Joy literally heals your brain's filing system. Speaking of healing, certain scents have been quietly working this same magic for thousands of years. Ancient spice merchants possessed memory skills that would make today's GPS-dependent drivers weep with envy. These traders navigated routes spanning thousands of miles without a single written map, relying entirely on their ability to memorize landmarks, seasonal patterns, and the precious scents that guided them home. But here's what gets fascinating about their memory techniques. They didn't just remember routes, they created elaborate smell-based memory systems. A whiff of cardamom meant they were 3 days from the mountain pass. Cinnamon bark indicated fresh water sources ahead. Star anise warned of bandits in the valley below. Your brain actually works the same way these merchants did. Smell connects directly to your hippocampus and amygdala, completely bypassing the usual processing delays. That's why your grandmother's perfume can instantly transport you back to childhood summers, or why bread baking makes you feel inexplicably safe. The merchants knew something we're only now understanding. They would deliberately pair specific spices with important memories during their journeys. Need to remember a safe trading post? They'd crush some black pepper and inhale deeply while memorizing the location. The scent became a mental bookmark. Pretty clever for people who lived centuries before neuroscience existed, right? Well, speaking of those merchant routes, there's something even more mysterious about how moonlight affected their nighttime memory work. The moon has always been humanity's most reliable nighttime companion, but its pale silver light might actually be doing something remarkable for your sleeping brain. Those gentle beams filtering through your bedroom window aren't just pretty to look at. Natural moonlight contains a specific spectrum of blue and silver wavelengths that your brain interprets differently than harsh artificial lighting. When moonbeams touch your closed eyelids, they trigger a cascade of melatonin production that creates the perfect chemical environment for memory consolidation. It's like nature designed the ultimate sleep laboratory. Ancient cultures knew this instinctively. They scheduled important ceremonies and learning sessions around lunar cycles, believing the moon helped preserve knowledge. Turns out, they weren't just being mystical. Your hippocampus becomes incredibly active during moonlit nights. The gentle illumination helps regulate your circadian rhythms in ways that electric light simply can't match. Those soft silver rays actually encourage your brain to enter deeper REM cycles, where the most important memory processing happens. Medieval scholars would deliberately study by moonlight, claiming it helped them remember texts better. Modern research suggests they were onto something real. The moon's natural light spectrum promotes the exact brainwave patterns needed for transferring information from short-term to long-term memory storage. But here's what's even more fascinating about how your brain responds to complete darkness. You know that feeling when you suddenly remember something from years ago? Like finding an old photo tucked between book pages. That's your brain doing archaeology on itself. Your mind constantly digs through layers of forgotten experiences. Every day, memories get buried under new ones. But here's the fascinating part. They don't disappear. They just wait patiently in the sediment of your consciousness. The process works like a gentle excavation. Your brain uses tiny cues to brush away mental dust from old memories. A familiar smell might uncover a childhood birthday party. A particular song could reveal a forgotten summer romance. The tools are subtle, but incredibly precise. Sometimes these memory digs happen automatically during sleep. Your brain sends out careful search parties through different neural neighborhoods. They're looking for connections, patterns, anything that might link today's experiences with yesterday's treasures. The really cool thing? Your brain treats these rediscovered memories like precious artifacts. It carefully examines them, decides which ones deserve restoration, and gently places them back in your conscious awareness. Some get polished until they shine brighter than when they were first formed. But not every excavation reveals perfect memories. Time weathered some of them. Details might be missing or changed, and that's okay too. Speaking of weathered memories, some form slowly over decades, building up like beautiful crystals in hidden caves. Deep beneath the earth, caves hold some of our planet's most ancient secrets. But here's what most people don't know. The way memories form in your brain follows the exact same slow, beautiful process as crystal formation in underground chambers. When you experience something meaningful, your neurons don't just snap into place like a photograph. Instead, they grow together gradually, like quartz crystals forming over thousands of years. Each memory starts as tiny fragments, scattered thoughts, emotions, and sensory details floating around your mind, like mineral deposits in cave water. Then something magical happens during sleep. Your brain becomes like those peaceful underground caverns where temperature stays perfectly constant and pressure builds just right. The scattered pieces of your day start crystallizing into solid memories. This process takes time, just like those stunning cave formations tourists marvel at. The hippocampus acts as your personal cave system, providing the perfect environment for memory crystals to grow. Some memories form quickly, like the delicate formations near cave entrances. Others need years to become truly solid, developing deep in the protected chambers of your mind. What's funny is that geologists and memory researchers use surprisingly similar language. Both talk about pressure, time, and perfect conditions. But while cave crystals grow in darkness, there's another memory formation that happens in complete silence. Shepherds have been walking the same hillsides for thousands of years, carrying memories that most of us can't imagine. These weren't people checking their phones or scrolling through feeds. Their brains developed something extraordinary, a deep connection to seasonal rhythms that created the most reliable memory system humans ever invented. A good shepherd could tell you exactly which pasture was best in late spring, where the sweetest grass grew after summer rains, and which slopes stayed green longest before winter. They remembered not just locations, but timing down to the week. Their grandfathers taught them, and they'd teach their sons the same patterns. But here's what makes their memory so special. It wasn't rushed. Seasons don't hurry, and neither did their learning. Walking miles every day gave their minds time to process and file away each detail. The gentle repetition of daily rounds strengthened these memories, like exercise builds muscle. Modern research shows that this kind of cyclical, unhurried learning creates the strongest neural pathways. When your great-grandmother knew exactly when to plant tomatoes or preserve peaches, she was using the same memory system. Her brain had learned to sync with nature's calendar. These pastoral memories didn't fade because they served real purposes. Forgetting meant hungry sheep or failed crops. Speaking of purposes, there's something fascinating about how our brains decide which morning memories deserve to stay crystal clear. You know that fresh, clear feeling when you wake up and everything just makes sense? Well, there's actual brain magic happening during those peaceful morning hours that transforms yesterday's jumbled experiences into crisp, organized memories. While you sleep, your brain doesn't just hit the pause button. It's more like a dedicated librarian working the night shift, carefully cataloging and filing away the day's experiences. By morning, those scattered thoughts have crystallized into proper memories, much like how dew forms on grass overnight. Here's what's really wild, though. The memories that emerge at dawn aren't just copies of what happened yesterday. They're upgraded versions. Your sleeping brain actually edits out the boring stuff and highlights the important bits. It's like having a personal film editor who works for free while you snooze. Think about it. Have you ever gone to bed confused about something, then woken up with the answer? That's your brain's overnight processing at work. The hippocampus literally replays the day's events during sleep, but faster, much faster. We're talking 10 times the normal speed. This morning clarity isn't just poetic nonsense. It's your refreshed neural networks firing on all cylinders, making connections that seemed impossible the night before. But there's something even more fascinating about how dreams themselves weave these memories together. While you're drifting off tonight, there's something magical happening inside your head. Your brain becomes a midnight weaver, sitting at an invisible loom, carefully threading together all the memories from your day. Dreams aren't just random movies playing in your sleep. They're actually your personal memory artist, taking scattered experiences and weaving them into meaningful stories. That awkward conversation at lunch, the song you heard on the radio, the smell of fresh coffee this morning. Your dreaming mind grabs these fragments and starts connecting them in ways your waking brain never could. Scientists have discovered that during REM sleep, your hippocampus and neocortex have quiet conversations. They're literally rewiring your memories, deciding which ones deserve permanent storage and which ones can fade away. It's like having a gentle librarian working the night shift, organizing your mental filing system while you rest. The really beautiful part: this midnight loom doesn't just store memories randomly. It finds patterns, creates associations, and sometimes even solves problems you've been wrestling with. Ever wake up with a sudden solution to something that was bugging you? That's your dream weaver at work. Your sleeping brain clicks and hums like an old wooden loom, creating the tapestry of who you are. But there's another kind of memory ritual that's been lighting up human consciousness for thousands of years. Throughout history, humans have created beautiful rituals around remembering. Candlelight ceremonies aren't just romantic backdrops. they actually work with your brain in fascinating ways. When you light a candle to honor a memory, the flickering flame creates something called soft fascination. Your mind enters a gentle, meditative state where memories flow more freely. Ancient cultures figured this out thousands of years before we understood the neuroscience behind it. The warm, amber light from candles triggers your brain's circadian rhythms differently than harsh electric bulbs. Your pupils dilate slightly, creating a dreamy focus that makes memories feel more vivid and accessible. It's like your brain puts on rose-colored glasses for the past. Many families have memory candles they light on special anniversaries. The ritual itself becomes encoded as a powerful memory trigger. Years later, just the smell of burning wax can transport you back to those quiet moments of remembrance. Jewish communities light yahrzeit candles for departed loved ones, burning for exactly 24 hours. Buddhist monks use candle meditation to cultivate mindful awareness of impermanence. Even birthday candles tap into this ancient connection between flame and memory. The gentle ritual slows down time, creating space for reflection without overwhelming your senses. Your breathing naturally deepens around candlelight, which helps consolidate emotional memories. But what happens when entire communities share collective stories passed down through voices alone? Every family has that one person who remembers everything. You know the type. They can tell you exactly what Aunt Martha wore to Cousin Jimmy's wedding in 1987, complete with the story about Uncle Bob's questionable dance moves. These memory keepers are the living libraries of our families, and their brains work differently than the rest of us. Family historians don't just remember random details. Their minds naturally create what memory experts call narrative frameworks. They unconsciously weave individual events into bigger stories, making everything stick better. When your grandmother tells you about the Great Depression for the 100th time, she's not just repeating herself. She's reinforcing neural pathways that keep those memories crystal clear. The really fascinating part? These storytellers often remember things that never happened to them personally. They absorb family legends so completely that their brains treat secondhand stories like first-hand experiences. That tale about great-grandfather wrestling a bear? Your family historian's hippocampus processes it almost identically to their own memories. But here's what makes these memory keepers truly special. They understand that facts aren't everything. They know when to embellish, when to soften harsh truths, and when to let sleeping dogs lie. They're not just preserving history, they're crafting legacy. Speaking of crafting memories, there's something magical about how fragile recollections form. Picture morning dewdrops clinging to flower petals. Each one, perfectly formed, crystal clear, yet so fragile that a single touch could make it disappear forever. That's exactly what your most delicate memories are like. Your brain treats certain memories like precious dewdrops. The first time you held hands with someone special. The exact smell of your grandmother's kitchen on Sunday mornings. That moment when you finally understood something that had puzzled you for years. Well, here's something fascinating. Your hippocampus actually has specialized cells that handle these fragile memories differently than regular ones. They're stored with extra care, wrapped in protective proteins that keep them intact. But just like dewdrops, they need the right conditions to survive. Stress hormones? They're like a harsh wind that can scatter these delicate memories. That's why traumatic experiences sometimes wipe out the gentle memories formed around the same time. Your brain literally can't maintain those gossamer thin neural connections when it's in survival mode. The beautiful part is how your sleeping brain tends to these memory dewdrops. During deep sleep, your glymphatic system works like a gentle gardener, carefully nourishing the most precious recollections while letting less important ones naturally fade away. But what happens when morning comes and these memory dewdrops begin to evaporate? That's where your brain's most dedicated chroniclers step in. In the rolling hills of rural England, there sits a man named Harold Whitmore, who's been documenting his village's daily happenings for 43 years. Every morning at 7, he opens a leather-bound journal and writes down who walked past the bakery, which dog got loose, and whether Mrs. Henderson's roses bloomed early again. You might think this sounds boring, but Harold represents something incredible about human memory preservation. Small communities have always had these unofficial historians, people who remember everything because someone has to. Before smartphones and social media, village chroniclers like Harold were the living hard drives of local culture. They remembered which family moved away in 1982, who caught the biggest fish in the pond, and exactly how Martha's apple pie recipe differed from her mother's. The beautiful thing, their brains actually adapt to become better at storing these seemingly mundane details. Neurologists have found that people who consciously practice remembering community events develop enhanced pattern recognition abilities. Their hippocampus literally grows stronger from all this gentle mental exercise. Harold doesn't know he's conducting a 40-year neuroscience experiment. He just loves his village. Makes sense, right? But there's something even more fascinating happening when these memory keepers sleep at night. When you drop a stone into a still pond, the ripples spread outward in perfect circles. Your memories work exactly the same way. Each experience creates waves that bounce around your brain for decades, sometimes even a lifetime. The hippocampus acts like the world's most sophisticated echo chamber. When you remember your first kiss, that memory doesn't just play once and disappear. It reverberates through connected neural networks, triggering related memories about that person, that place, even what you had for lunch that day. Ancient Greek theaters were built with this principle in mind. The architects understood that sound needed space to travel and bounce back. Your brain's memory chambers follow surprisingly similar acoustic rules. The stronger the original experience, the longer its echo lasts. Here's what's fascinating, though. Unlike actual echoes that fade with each repetition, memory echoes can actually get stronger. Every time you recall something, you're essentially throwing another stone into the pond. The waves reinforce each other, making the memory more vivid and permanent. Musicians have known this secret for centuries. They practice in rooms with natural reverb because the sound feedback helps their fingers remember the music better. Your brain uses the same technique, bouncing memories around until they stick perfectly. But not all memory chambers have the same acoustics. Your brain works just like a master gardener who knows exactly which plants to keep and which ones to pull out. Every single night, while you sleep, this invisible gardener walks through your mental landscape, deciding what memories deserve space and which ones need to go. The process is called synaptic pruning, and it happens without you ever knowing. Think about it. If your brain kept every single memory from brushing your teeth to every commercial you've seen, you'd go completely insane. Your mental garden would become an overgrown jungle where nothing useful could grow. But here's what's fascinating about this nightly pruning ritual. Your brain doesn't just randomly delete stuff, it follows surprisingly smart rules. Memories that triggered strong emotions, those get premium real estate. The boring Tuesday when nothing happened, goodbye forever. The pruning process actually strengthens the memories you keep. When your brain removes weak connections, it frees up energy and space for the important stuff to grow stronger. It's like removing weeds, so your roses can bloom bigger and brighter. Some researchers believe this selective forgetting is why we sleep at all. Maybe dreams are just your brain's way of test driving memories to see which ones are worth keeping. Speaking of celestial guidance for our memories, did you know your mind actually navigates through past experiences using patterns remarkably similar to how ancient sailors read the stars? Your brain navigates memories the same way ancient sailors crossed vast oceans using only the stars. Pretty wild, right? Every night when you close your eyes, your mind becomes this incredible celestial navigator, using distant points of light to find its way through the endless sea of everything you've ever experienced. The hippocampus acts like your personal constellation map. It doesn't store memories directly, but creates these beautiful star patterns that help you locate specific experiences when you need them. Just like Polaris guided ships home for centuries, certain powerful memories become your North Star, helping orient all the other scattered remembrances floating in your mental sky. But here's what blows my mind about this whole process. Your brain doesn't just randomly wander through memories like a lost traveler. It follows specific neural pathways that light up like ancient trade routes between distant stars. These pathways get stronger each time you revisit certain memories, creating well-worn celestial highways through your personal universe. The most peaceful part? This navigation happens automatically while you sleep. Your dreaming mind drifts from memory constellation to memory constellation, strengthening connections and filing experiences in their proper places among the stars. It's like having the most patient, skilled navigator working the night shift in your head. Speaking of patient workers, wait until you hear about the dreamy alchemist transforming your sleeping memories into pure wisdom. Deep in your sleeping mind, something magical happens to those bizarre dreams you barely remember. While you're lost in stories about flying purple elephants or having dinner with your third-grade teacher, your brain quietly transforms this nonsense into genuine wisdom. Dream memories don't follow normal rules. They're like skilled alchemists, taking the strangest combinations of daily experiences and melting them down into pure insight. That weird dream where you're teaching calculus to a talking sandwich? Your mind might be processing stress about work presentations and hunger pangs into a solution for tomorrow's challenges. The transformation happens in slow waves of sleep, when your brain essentially becomes a master chemist. Random neural firings get sorted, filtered, and refined. What seemed like mental gibberish becomes emotional understanding. The flying dreams teach you about freedom. The endless hallway dreams help you process feelings of being lost. But here's the beautiful part. You don't have to remember the dreams to get their benefits. Your unconscious mind keeps the golden insights while letting the silly packaging fade away. It's like having a wise friend who speaks only in riddles, but somehow you always understand the important message. The gentle alchemy continues all night long, turning lead dreams into memory gold. Speaking of nocturnal transformation, There's another ancient practice that creates sacred spaces for remembrance through aromatic pathways. Ancient temples knew something we're only just rediscovering. They weren't just burning incense to smell nice during prayers. The aromatic smoke was actually rewiring worshippers' brains, creating stronger memory, pathways to their most sacred experiences. Frankincense contains compounds that cross the blood-brain barrier and enhance memory formation. Those medieval monks weren't just being fancy when they swung those censers around. They were literally making their prayers more memorable. Japanese tea ceremonies use specific incense combinations that help participants remember each detail of the ritual. The scent molecules bind to memory proteins, creating what researchers call aromatic anchors. Your brain tags these experiences as extra important when specific smells are present. But here's what's really fascinating. Temple incense doesn't just help form new memories. It actually helps retrieve old ones. Buddhist monasteries have used sandalwood for centuries because it triggers deeper states of recollection during meditation. Even your grandmother probably knew this trick without realizing it. Burning vanilla or lavender while studying creates scent-linked memories. Smell the same fragrance later, and your brain instantly accesses that information. The most beautiful part? These aromatic memories tend to be our most peaceful ones. The brain associates pleasant scents with safety and calm, which explains why certain smells can instantly transport us to tranquil moments. Speaking of repetitive practices that enhance memory formation, Buddhist monks in Tibet spend years memorizing thousands of prayers using simple wooden beads. Each bead represents a specific verse, creating a physical map for their mental journey through sacred texts. The gentle clicking sound becomes a rhythm that matches their heartbeat, turning memory work into a form of moving meditation. The repetitive motion does something fascinating to the brain. When your fingers follow the same pattern over and over, it creates what researchers call embodied memory. Your hands literally remember the prayers, even when your mind wanders. Pretty clever, right? These memory beads aren't just religious tools. They're ancient memory devices that work better than most modern techniques. The monks discovered that linking physical movement to mental content makes both stronger. Touch one bead, recall one prayer. Simple math that adds up to extraordinary results. Well, here's something that might surprise you. The beads don't just help with memorization. They actually change brain structure over time. The areas responsible for tactile processing and verbal memory start working together more efficiently. It's like building a bridge between your hands and your thoughts. Modern neuroscience proves what these monks knew centuries ago. Repetitive finger movements, combined with spoken words, create multiple memory pathways. If one route fails, another takes over. But there's something even more interesting about how this ancient wisdom connects to the way your brain processes different types of sensory memories while you sleep. Memory fades like autumn leaves, and that's actually one of the most beautiful things about how our minds work. We're programmed to let certain memories drift away naturally, just like trees releasing their leaves when the season changes. Your brain isn't failing you when you forget where you put your keys last Tuesday. It's doing exactly what it should do. The forgetting process is as carefully orchestrated as memory formation itself. Think about it. If you remembered every single detail of every single day, your mind would be cluttered with useless information about parking spots and what you had for lunch 3 weeks ago. But here's what's fascinating about memory's autumn cleaning. The brain doesn't just randomly delete stuff. It has this incredibly sophisticated filing system that decides what stays and what goes. Important emotional moments, those stick around like evergreen trees. That embarrassing thing you said in fifth grade, your brain might finally decide it's time to compost that memory. The hippocampus acts like a gentle groundskeeper, sweeping away the mental leaves that no longer serve you. Some memories fade completely, while others just lose their sharp edges, becoming softer and more dreamlike over time. This natural forgetting isn't loss, it's liberation. But sometimes, our brains need a little help organizing all these fading memories into something more permanent. Deep in your mind lies a sanctuary most people never discover. This hidden mental garden holds your most precious memories, locked away from the daily chaos of life. Unlike the busy marketplace of everyday thoughts, this secret space remains untouched by stress or worry. Your brain actually creates these protected zones automatically. When something truly meaningful happens, special neural pathways form distinct compartments. These aren't just random storage areas, they're carefully curated spaces where your most treasured experiences grow stronger over time. What makes these memory gardens so fascinating? They operate on completely different rules than regular recall. While ordinary memories fade or change, these protected ones become more vivid. That first kiss, your grandmother's laughter, the smell of your childhood home. Each one gets its own dedicated plot in this mental sanctuary. The really beautiful part happens during sleep. Your brain tends these gardens like a devoted caretaker, watering the most important memories while letting weeds of trivial details fade away. This nocturnal gardening happens without any effort from you. Some memories even develop their own protective barriers. Traumatic experiences get special handling, often wrapped in mental hedges that soften their edges over time. But there's something even more mysterious about how these gardens connect to each other, creating underground networks that span your entire emotional landscape. Walking through your memories feels eerily similar to taking a spiritual pilgrimage. Both involve sacred paths, both require patience, and both promise transformation at the end. Memory pilgrims don't need hiking boots, though. They just need a quiet moment and the courage to wander backwards through time. Your brain actually creates neural pathways that function like ancient pilgrimage routes, worn smooth by countless mental travelers seeking meaning in their past. The funny thing about memory journeys, you never end up where you started. A simple recollection of your grandmother's kitchen somehow leads you to that embarrassing moment in third grade, then mysteriously deposits you at last Tuesday's coffee shop conversation. Medieval pilgrims walked hundreds of miles to reach sacred sites. Modern memory pilgrims can travel decades in seconds, visiting the sacred sites of their own experience. That first kiss, the day you got the job, the moment everything changed. But here's what makes memory pilgrimage so beautifully weird. The destination keeps moving. What felt earth-shattering at 20 feels sweetly naive at 40. The same memory, viewed from different life stages, reveals completely different meanings. Your brain doesn't just store these experiences randomly, though. It creates careful connections between similar emotional states, building bridges across decades of experience. Speaking of bridges, there's something magical about how your mind preserves the actual treasures from childhood wonder. Your brain keeps a special collection that would make any toy store jealous. those magical moments from when you were 4 and discovered butterflies could land on your finger. Still there, tucked away like precious gems in mental storage boxes. But here's what's fascinating about childhood memories. Your adult brain doesn't just dump them randomly into storage. It carefully sorts through them like the world's most patient librarian, deciding which moments deserve prime real estate in your memory palace. The smell of your grandmother's cookies gets VIP treatment. That time you got scared by a vacuum cleaner? Not so much. Your brain actually rewrites these memories every time you access them. So that perfect summer day you remember might be a beautiful blend of 3 different afternoons, all stitched together by your mind's creative storytelling department. Scientists call this memory reconstruction, but I prefer to think of it as your brain being a hopeless romantic about the past. It keeps the golden parts and gently fades the rest. What's really wild is how these childhood treasures influence your adult decisions. That sense of wonder you felt watching clouds. It's still guiding you toward beauty today, even if you don't realize it. Then there's something even sweeter about how these memories crystallize over time. Your brain creates memory honey the same way bees make the real thing. Well, sort of. When something wonderful happens, your mind doesn't just file it away like boring paperwork. It actually sweetens the memory over time. Remember your first kiss? That awkward bump of noses probably felt mortifying back then. But now, pure golden sweetness in your memory vault. Your brain literally adds sugar to the past, filtering out the cringe and keeping the magic. Scientists call this rosy retrospection. Though honestly, that sounds way too fancy for what's basically your mind being a hopeless romantic. Even terrible vacations become character-building adventures after a few years. That food poisoning in Mexico? Now it's a hilarious story you tell at dinner parties. The hippocampus works overtime during sleep, deciding which experiences deserve the honey treatment. It's like having a master chef in your head, slow cooking memories until they're perfectly golden. The mundane stuff gets tossed out like yesterday's leftovers. Here's what's really wild. Positive memories actually get stronger over time while negative ones fade. Your brain is literally programmed for happiness, even if it doesn't always feel that way when you're living through Monday morning traffic. But there's another type of memory preservation happening while you sleep. One that involves patterns written in the very stars themselves. Ancient astronomers spent entire lifetimes memorizing star patterns, and their brains developed something remarkable. These celestial observers could recall the positions of over 2,000 individual stars without ever writing anything down. Wild, right? The memory techniques they used were actually genius. They'd create stories, connecting star groups, turning random dots of light into memorable characters and adventures. Orion wasn't just 3 stars in a line. He was a hunter forever chasing the Pleiades sisters across the sky. But here's what's really fascinating about astronomical memory. These stargazers noticed that looking up at the night sky triggered a specific type of brain state. The vastness above seemed to unlock deeper memory pathways, making it easier to remember not just star positions, but everything else too. Modern research backs this up. When people spend time under dark, starry skies, their brains produce more of the neurotransmitters linked to memory formation. Something about cosmic perspective literally rewires our ability to remember. The ancient Chinese took this even further. They believed certain star configurations could enhance different types of memory. Want to remember poetry? Look toward the constellation they called the literary star. Need to recall important dates? Focus on the calendar stars near the Big Dipper. Tonight's sky holds the same memory-boosting power those ancient astronomers discovered. Speaking of memory enhancement, there's another gentle way our brains restore and strengthen memories. Memory repair isn't just some futuristic fantasy. Therapists around the world quietly run these workshops where broken memories get gentle makeovers. The process feels more like art restoration than brain surgery. Trained counselors help people carefully examine damaged memories, kind of like restoring an old painting one brushstroke at a time. No harsh scrubbing allowed. What's fascinating is how memories actually want to heal themselves. Your brain has this incredible ability to fill in missing pieces and smooth out rough edges. It's like having a built-in photo editor that works while you sleep. The workshops use techniques that sound almost magical. Eye movement therapy helps memories find new neural pathways. Guided meditation lets traumatic experiences dissolve into something manageable. Even simple breathing exercises can transform how your brain stores difficult moments. But here's what nobody tells you about memory restoration. Sometimes the damaged memories aren't really broken at all. They're just filed in the wrong mental folder. Moving them to a better spot in your mind can change everything. The most beautiful part? These workshops operate in hushed, calming environments. Soft lighting, comfortable chairs, maybe some gentle background music, creating safe spaces where memories can finally exhale. Speaking of music and memory, wait until you hear about the silent symphonies playing inside your head right now. Your brain keeps a secret jukebox playing 24/7. Right now, somewhere in your head, there's probably a song humming along quietly in the background. Maybe it's that tune you heard this morning, or something from decades ago that just won't quit. Musicians' brains work differently than the rest of us. They literally rewire themselves to store melodies like precious gems. When a violinist practices scales for the thousandth time, their neural pathways carve deeper grooves, creating highways for musical memory that last forever. But here's what's really wild. You don't need to be Mozart to have this superpower. Every lullaby your mother sang, every birthday song you've ever heard, every embarrassing pop hit from middle school lives somewhere in your memory palace. They're all there, waiting patiently for the right trigger to bring them rushing back. The strangest part? Your brain can play multiple songs simultaneously without getting confused. Like having several radio stations broadcasting at once, but somehow keeping each melody crystal clear. Musicians call this their inner ear, but really, we all have this incredible ability. Some people can hear entire orchestras in their heads, complete with different instruments playing separate parts. Others just get fragments. A guitar riff here, a drum beat there. Speaking of natural rhythms, wait until you discover how morning dew creates the perfect conditions for memory formation. Picture yourself walking through a meadow just as the sun breaks the horizon. Dewdrops catch the first light, each one holding a tiny rainbow. That's exactly what happens to your memories in those quiet morning moments. Your brain does something remarkable during early dawn hours. The stress hormone cortisol naturally peaks around 6 to 8 a.m., but instead of making you anxious, it actually sharpens memory recall. Those peaceful moments when you're barely awake, that's when your mind sorts through yesterday's experiences with crystal clarity. Morning dew forms when warm air meets cool surfaces overnight. Similarly, your memories crystallize as emotional warmth meets the cool logic of your sleeping brain. The hippocampus literally replays the day's events during REM sleep, deciding which moments deserve permanent storage in your mental meadow. There's something almost magical about how memories feel different in morning light. Ever notice how problems seem smaller after a good night's sleep? That's your brain's gentle editing process at work, like dew naturally evaporating as the day warms. Unnecessary details fade away, leaving only the essential beauty of each experience. The Japanese have a word for this: mono no aware, the gentle sadness of things passing. Morning memories carry this same bittersweet quality. But what happens when artificial light disrupts this natural memory formation process? Love leaves the strangest archaeological evidence in our brains. When archaeologists dig up ancient civilizations, they handle pottery shards and weathered coins with infinite care. Your mind does something remarkably similar with romantic memories. Every fight, every first kiss, every quiet morning together gets cataloged with museum-level precision. But here's what's fascinating. Your brain doesn't just store these memories randomly. It creates distinct neural pathways for different types of love experiences. The gentle touch of a partner's hand, that gets filed in a completely different section than the memory of their laugh. And those arguments you had? Well, those often get diplomatically edited over time, like a kindly curator deciding which artifacts deserve prime display space. Scientists have discovered that couples who've been together for decades actually synchronize their memory patterns. They start remembering shared experiences almost identically. It's as if two separate archaeological sites begin showing the same cultural influences. Then there's the beautiful mystery of how we remember faces of people we've loved. Even years later, those neural patterns remain so vivid that glimpsing someone similar on the street can trigger an instant flood of recognition. Your brain treats romantic memories like precious artifacts, carefully preserved, lovingly maintained, and occasionally taken out for gentle examination. But what happens when these memory archaeologists encounter something truly unexpected? Ever get lost in thick fog at night? That's what navigating life with damaged memories feels like. But here's something beautiful. Those dim memory lanterns still glow softly in the mist. When trauma or injury affects our memory, the brain doesn't just shut down completely. It's more like someone turned down the dimmer switch on your mental lighthouse. The light's still there, just gentler. My grandmother developed dementia, and I watched her memories fade like old lanterns losing oil. But the strangest thing? She could still hum every lullaby she'd ever sung to us. Those melodies glowed bright as ever. The hippocampus, our brain's memory center, works like a lighthouse keeper during fog. When clear memories aren't available, it reaches for whatever light it can find. A familiar smell, a piece of music, the feeling of someone's hand. These fragmented memories aren't broken. They're just working differently. Like how sailors once navigated by scattered stars when the main constellation was hidden. You find your way with whatever light remains. Research shows that emotional memories often survive when factual ones fade. Love stays when names disappear. Comfort remains when faces blur. The fog lifts sometimes too. Moments of clarity break through like sudden moonbeams. Those glimpses remind us that memory isn't just about perfect recall. Speaking of ancient wisdom keepers and their perfectly preserved knowledge, ancient scholars developed memory techniques that would make today's students weep with envy. These sleepy academics turned their minds into vast libraries, storing entire texts without ever touching a book. Picture a medieval monk shuffling through candlelit corridors at 3 in the morning. He's not insomniac. He's practicing what they called memory scrolls. The technique involved mentally unrolling imaginary parchments, each containing perfectly preserved knowledge. These scholars discovered something fascinating about the brain's storage system. When you repeatedly trace the same mental pathway, neurons literally grow stronger connections. It's like wearing a path through grass. The more you walk it, the more permanent it becomes. Medieval universities required students to memorize thousands of pages. No textbooks, no notebooks, just pure mental storage. They'd spend hours in quiet contemplation, slowly building vast internal libraries. Here's what's remarkable. These memory scrolls worked better than modern cramming techniques. The slow, methodical approach created what researchers now call elaborative encoding. Each fact connected to multiple others, forming an unbreakable web of knowledge. Thomas Aquinas reportedly memorized the entire Bible using scroll visualization. He'd imagine unrolling each book section by section, watching words appear in beautiful calligraphy across his mind's eye. The technique required incredible patience. Scholars would spend months perfecting single texts, but once learned, the knowledge stayed forever. But memory scrolls weren't just about storage. They created something unexpected that transformed how knowledge itself was understood. Memory butterflies might be the most beautiful metaphor for how our minds actually work. These delicate creatures undergo complete transformation during their life cycle, just like our memories do as they flutter through different stages of our consciousness. When a caterpillar enters its chrysalis, it literally dissolves into soup before becoming something entirely new. Your memories do something remarkably similar. That embarrassing thing you did in high school? It's probably transformed so much that the version you remember today barely resembles what actually happened. And that's perfectly normal. Butterflies migrate thousands of miles using memories passed down through generations. Here's the wild part. No single butterfly completes the entire journey. One generation starts the trip, dies along the way, and their offspring somehow know exactly where to go next. They inherit directional memories they've never experienced themselves. Your brain does something equally magical with inherited memories. You might find yourself humming a lullaby your grandmother sang, even though you haven't heard it in decades. Or feel inexplicably comfortable in a place that reminds you of somewhere your ancestors lived. The monarch butterfly's brain weighs less than a grain of rice, yet it stores enough navigational data to cross continents. Makes you wonder what else might be stored in that small space between your ears, doesn't it? But here's where memory gets even more mysterious. Some memories never migrate at all. As the sun sets on our conscious day, there's something beautiful happening in your mind that most people never think about. Your brain becomes a vigilant guardian, carefully watching over every precious memory you've collected. This twilight watch isn't just poetic nonsense. Your consciousness actually shifts into preservation mode during those drowsy evening hours. Think about it. When did you last lose a really important memory? Your wedding day, your first kiss, that moment your child was born. They're all still there, aren't they? The hippocampus works overtime during these quiet hours, deciding which memories deserve permanent storage. It's like having a wise librarian who knows exactly which books belong in the rare collection. But here's what's fascinating. This process happens whether you're aware of it or not. During twilight meditation, many people report their most vivid memories surfacing naturally. There's actually a reason for this. The changing light triggers specific neural pathways that enhance memory recall. Ancient monks figured this out centuries ago, timing their evening prayers to coincide with peak memory formation. Your brain literally glows during this process. Well, not literally, but neural activity increases in the memory centers as consciousness prepares for sleep's deeper work. Speaking of ancient wisdom keepers, some cultures believed certain natural spaces held supernatural memory powers. Deep in ancient forests around the world, certain groves held power that went far beyond their towering trees. These weren't just random patches of woodland. They were living libraries. The Celtic Druids knew this secret well. They'd gather beneath massive oaks, using these natural cathedrals as memory vaults where oral traditions lived for centuries. Each tree became a chapter, each clearing a different story. Walking through these groves meant walking through history itself. What's fascinating is how our brains still work this way today. When you attach memories to physical spaces, they stick around much longer than abstract thoughts floating in your head. It's why you can probably remember every detail of your childhood bedroom, but struggle to recall what you had for lunch 3 days ago. Ancient cultures took this seriously. Aboriginal Australians created songlines across entire continents, turning landscapes into massive memory maps. Every rock, tree, and waterhole held knowledge passed down for 40,000 years. The land itself became their library. Even today, many people instinctively return to meaningful places when they want to remember something important. That park bench where you had your first kiss? Your brain filed away every sensory detail. These memory groves prove something beautiful about human nature. We've always needed sacred spaces to hold our most precious thoughts. But there's an even more mysterious way our minds create their own invisible rivers of remembrance. Memory streams flow through your mind just like rivers through peaceful landscapes. And like any good fisherman, you've got to know when to cast your line and when to let the current carry things away. Your brain actually practices catch and release every single day. That embarrassing thing from third grade, released. The way your grandmother's kitchen smelled, caught and kept forever. The brain's fishing technique is surprisingly selective about what gets pulled from the stream of consciousness. But here's what makes this process fascinating. You're not just passively sitting by the water. You're actively choosing which memories to reel in. When you focus on something, you're essentially dropping a weighted line right into that memory stream. The more attention you give it, the stronger your grip becomes. Some memories are like those slippery fish that keep getting away. You know they're there, swimming around somewhere in the depths, but every time you reach for them, they dart away into darker waters. Others practically jump into your net without any effort at all. The really skilled memory fishermen, people with exceptional recall, have learned to read their mental currents. They know which thoughts attract which memories, like knowing exactly what bait works for different fish. And speaking of winter landscapes, there's something magical about how memories crystallize. Winter transforms everything into a frozen cathedral of silence. Your memories work exactly the same way. Each one forms like a unique snowflake, impossibly intricate and absolutely one of a kind. Think about it. You've never had the exact same memory twice. Even remembering your morning coffee creates a completely new neural pattern each time. The smell, the warmth, the way sunlight hit your kitchen table, all crystallizing into something that's never existed before in the universe. But here's what gets fascinating. Snowflakes need perfect conditions to form their elaborate patterns. Too warm, and they melt. Too cold, and they become simple ice pellets. Your brain creates similar conditions for memory formation during sleep. The temperature drops slightly. Brain waves slow into those gentle rhythms we talked about earlier. Everything becomes perfectly still. Memory researchers have discovered that each recollection contains thousands of tiny details, just like snowflakes contain countless microscopic ice crystals. The way your grandmother's voice echoed in her kitchen, the specific shade of blue in that childhood sky, the exact texture of sand between your toes during summer vacation. These details accumulate quietly over decades, creating vast drifts of experience. Some memories pile up in protected corners of your mind, preserved perfectly in the cold storage of deep sleep. Others drift away on warm winds of forgetting, making space for new ones to fall. While snowflakes eventually melt, there's something even more mysterious about how we navigate through all these accumulated memories. Every ancient explorer carried invisible maps in their head, not drawn on parchment, but etched into memory through years of careful observation and patient practice. Picture those early cartographers, hunched over their desks by candlelight, trying to capture entire continents on fragile paper. But here's what's fascinating. The real magic happened inside their minds first. They had to remember every coastline, every mountain range, every river bend before they could ever draw a single line. Your brain works the same way. Right now, you've got detailed mental maps of your neighborhood, your workplace, even your childhood home. These aren't just memories. They're sophisticated navigation systems that would make any GPS jealous. The hippocampus acts like your personal cartographer, constantly updating and refining these mental territories. Every time you walk a familiar path, your brain quietly strengthens those neural highways. Makes sense, right? Here's the beautiful part. These memory maps don't just store locations. They capture emotions, smells, sounds, entire stories attached to each place. That corner where you bought your first coffee, the park bench where you had that important conversation. Ancient mariners called it dead reckoning, navigating by memory and instinct when stars weren't visible. But what happens when our memory maps get scrambled or start fading with age? Well, that's where things get really interesting. Your memories move like ocean tides, rolling in and out with their own mysterious rhythm. Sometimes, a forgotten song crashes over you in the grocery store, bringing back your entire senior year. Other times, you can barely remember what you had for breakfast yesterday. This gentle ebb and flow isn't random chaos. It's actually your brain's way of keeping you sane. Think about it. If every memory hit you with full intensity all the time, you'd be overwhelmed by the sheer volume of everything you've experienced. Your first heartbreak would feel as fresh as yesterday's coffee spill. That embarrassing thing you did in third grade would sting just as much as it did 20 years ago. But here's what's fascinating. Your brain acts like a skilled tide pool curator. It brings certain memories to the surface when they're needed, then gently pulls them back when their time is done. The smell of your grandmother's kitchen might wash over you completely one afternoon, then retreat back into the quiet depths of your mind. The really beautiful part? Your brain doesn't just randomly shuffle memories around. It brings forward the ones that serve you: comfort when you're stressed, wisdom when you're confused, joy when you're feeling low. Even the painful memories that surface serve a purpose. helping you process and heal. Speaking of purposeful memory management, wait until you hear how your mind acts like a shepherd. Picture a shepherd in ancient times, watching over his flock under a blanket of stars. But this isn't about sheep. It's about how your mind shepherds memories through the vast landscape of consciousness. Your brain acts like that gentle shepherd, carefully guiding scattered thoughts and experiences into organized groups. Some memories graze peacefully in the meadows of your hippocampus, while others need gentle nudging back toward the flock when they start to wander. The really fascinating part? Your mental shepherd never sleeps. Even when you're dreaming, this internal guide keeps working, moving important memories closer to permanent storage while letting the less significant ones drift away into the night. Ancient shepherds knew every single animal in their care. They could spot a missing lamb from hundreds of yards away. Your memory shepherd has the same incredible ability. It knows which experiences matter most and keeps them safe from predators like stress and time. The peaceful rhythm of this mental herding happens constantly. A childhood birthday party gets moved closer to the campfire of long-term storage. Yesterday's grocery list? Well, that one might end up wandering off into the wilderness of forgetting. But here's what makes this shepherd truly special. It doesn't just guard memories randomly. There's an ancient wisdom at work, and those old memory stones hold secrets about how this guidance system really operates. Throughout human history, cultures have transformed landscapes into memory. Stone circles weren't just pretty decorations. They were humanity's first hard drives. Take Stonehenge. Those massive rocks weren't randomly placed by bored ancient people with too much time. Each stone marked celestial events, seasonal changes, and cultural milestones. Walking around the circle was like reading a giant stone calendar that stored generations of accumulated knowledge. The builders understood something we've forgotten in our digital age. Physical spaces anchor memories better than anything else. When you connect information to specific locations, your brain creates multiple pathways to the same memory. It's like having backup files stored in different folders. Ancient Celtic druids took this concept even further. They created elaborate stone arrangements that served as three-dimensional textbooks. Students would walk prescribed paths between standing stones, each rock triggering specific lessons about astronomy, medicine, or tribal history. But here's what's really clever about these memory stones. They were designed for repetition without boredom. The circular patterns meant you could walk the same path countless times, yet discover new connections between the stored information. Each season brought different shadows and light patterns, revealing fresh layers of meaning. These ancient architects knew that the most powerful memories combine movement, space, and rhythm. Speaking of rhythm, there's something fascinating about how our brains actually weave individual memories together. After decades of weaving memories through countless experiences, your brain becomes quite the artist. Every laugh with friends, every sunset that took your breath away, every moment of pure joy gets woven together into something magnificent. Memory weavers in ancient cultures knew this secret. They'd spend their entire lives creating tapestries that told complete stories. But here's what's fascinating. They never planned the final pattern from the beginning. Each thread influenced the next, creating something entirely unexpected. Your brain works exactly the same way. That embarrassing moment from middle school? It's not just sitting there making you cringe. It's actually connected to your sense of humor today. the way your grandmother hummed while cooking. That thread runs through every meal that makes you feel loved. The hippocampus acts like the master weaver, pulling threads from decades of living. It doesn't just store memories randomly. Instead, it creates these incredible connections between seemingly unrelated experiences. The most beautiful part happens during sleep. While you're completely unaware, your brain steps back like an artist examining their work. It strengthens the connections that matter most and lets others fade gently into the background. This nightly weaving creates something psychologists call narrative coherence. Fancy words for your life actually making sense. But what happens when your brain needs to protect these precious patterns during the vulnerable hours of sleep? There's something profoundly peaceful about watching candles flicker in a quiet chapel while monks whisper their evening prayers. But what you might not know is that these hushed devotions aren't just spiritual exercises. They're actually sophisticated memory preservation systems that have been protecting sacred knowledge for over 1,500 years. Medieval monasteries developed these prayer rituals partly because repetition literally rewrites your neural pathways. When Brother Francis recites the same psalm every night at Vespers, his brain isn't just engaging in worship. It's creating what neuroscientists now call consolidation through repetition. Each whispered word strengthens the synaptic connections until the entire text becomes permanently etched into his memory. The candlelight isn't just atmosphere either. Dim, warm lighting triggers your brain's production of melatonin, which actually enhances long-term memory formation. Those medieval monks accidentally discovered the perfect lighting conditions for memory work centuries before we understood the science. Here's where it gets fascinating. Many monastic communities required their members to memorize entire books of scripture, not just verses, but complete texts spanning hundreds of pages. They'd spend hours in silent meditation, mentally walking through these memorized passages like living libraries. Speaking of libraries, there's another group of memory guardians working the night shift in your brain right now. Your brain never really sleeps, you know. While you're dreaming about flying elephants or forgetting to wear pants to work, there's actually a dedicated security team working the night shift upstairs. Meet your memory guardians, specialized neural networks that spend their evenings sorting through the day's mental junk mail. They're like those meticulous librarians who reorganize everything after closing time, except they're deciding which memories deserve premium shelf space and which ones get tossed in the recycling bin. The hippocampus leads this midnight crew, carefully transferring important memories from temporary storage to permanent filing cabinets in your cortex. But here's what's really wild. These guardians don't just preserve memories. They actively protect them from interference. Ever wonder why you sometimes wake up with crystal clear solutions to problems that stumped you the day before? That's your memory guards working overtime, connecting dots and strengthening neural pathways while you're completely unconscious. They're surprisingly picky about their work. Emotional memories get VIP treatment, while boring stuff, like where you parked last Tuesday, gets the boot. Makes sense, right? Your brain's storage space isn't infinite. These tireless workers even prevent new information from overriding important old memories during sleep. It's like having a bouncer for your brain's most exclusive club. Speaking of exclusive clubs, wait until you hear about the incredible memory harvest that happens when autumn arrives in your mind. The autumn of your life brings something magical, a memory harvest richer than any farmer's field. While young people scramble to create new experiences, your brain has spent decades quietly cultivating something far more valuable. Think about it. A 70-year-old has roughly 25,000 days of memories stored away. That's like having a personal library with millions of books, each one containing moments of laughter, discovery, and wisdom. Pretty incredible, right? But here's what makes this even more fascinating. Older brains don't just store more memories, they actually get better at connecting them. Scientists have discovered that mature minds excel at what they call crystallized intelligence. You know how grandparents always seem to know exactly the right story for every situation? That's their memory harvest at work. The hippocampus might slow down a bit with age, but the prefrontal cortex becomes a master chef, blending decades of experiences into perfectly seasoned wisdom. Your brain literally rewires itself to see patterns that younger minds miss completely. And those senior moments everyone jokes about, they're actually your brain being selective, choosing to focus on what truly matters instead of cluttering up with trivial details. The most beautiful part is how these accumulated memories create a sense of peace, like sitting in a warm library surrounded by beloved books. Speaking of warmth, there's something eternal about how consciousness tends the flame of our most precious remembrances. Deep in the quiet corners of your mind sits something remarkable, a sacred flame that never goes out. This isn't some mystical mumbo jumbo either. Your brain literally maintains a constant fire of electrical activity, keeping your most precious memories alive 24 hours a day. Every important moment gets its own special treatment. Your first kiss? Protected by dedicated neural pathways that fire consistently. Your grandmother's laugh? Stored in multiple brain regions with backup systems that would make NASA jealous. The brain takes memory preservation seriously, like a devoted monk tending an eternal flame. But here's what makes this truly fascinating. Not all memories get the VIP treatment. Your brain acts like a wise temple keeper, deciding which flames deserve the premium fuel. That random Tuesday when you ate cereal? Gone. The day your child was born? Burned into your neural networks forever. The hippocampus works over time as your memory's head priest, constantly deciding which flames to feed and which to let fade naturally. It's actually doing you a favor. Imagine remembering every single moment with crystal clarity. You'd go absolutely bonkers. Even during sleep, this sacred fire keeps burning, quietly reorganizing and strengthening the memories that matter most. Speaking of sleep, your brain has created the most beautiful gardens where these flames can rest safely. Picture finding the perfect spot where your mind can rest all its precious memories. Deep in protected valleys, where gentle hills shield everything from harsh winds, memory gardens bloom in eternal twilight. These aren't real places, obviously, but your brain creates something remarkably similar. The hippocampus actually shapes these protected spaces during sleep. While you're dreaming, it's busy moving memories from temporary storage into permanent valleys of remembrance. Kind of like a master gardener who knows exactly where each flower belongs. Ancient cultures understood this instinctively. They built their most sacred memory spaces in valleys, protected, peaceful, eternal. The Greeks had their sacred groves nestled between hills. Makes sense, right? Valleys feel safe. They cradle things gently. Your sleeping brain mirrors this wisdom perfectly. During deep sleep phases, neural networks create protective barriers around important memories. The brain literally cushions precious experiences in layers of supportive tissue and connections. Here's what's beautiful. Traumatic memories get special treatment in these twilight gardens. The mind wraps them in softer associations, like planting thorny roses next to lavender. Over time, the gentleness spreads. Valley gardens need flowing water to thrive. Your memory valleys have something even better: the constant, gentle current of cerebrospinal fluid that nourishes every precious remembrance as it flows through your sleeping brain. Individual memories flow like tributaries, each carrying their own stories toward something much larger than themselves. Your childhood laugh at a playground, the smell of your grandmother's kitchen, that perfect sunset you watched last summer. All of these personal moments eventually join the vast river of human experience. But here's what gets really fascinating. Memories don't just disappear when we die. They live on in the people we've touched, the stories we've shared, the traditions we've passed down. Your mom's recipe becomes your daughter's specialty. Your dad's joke gets retold at family gatherings for decades. Think about how many times you've said, "My grandmother always used to say." Well, that's her memory living on through you. You've become a keeper of her thoughts, her wisdom, her way of seeing the world. Indigenous cultures understood this beautifully. They believed memories belonged not just to individuals, but to entire communities. Each person was like a drop of water carrying essential information downstream to future generations. Even modern neuroscience hints at this collective aspect. Mirror neurons fire when we watch others, literally sharing their experiences in our own brains. We're constantly downloading pieces of each other's memories. The river keeps flowing, carrying all our stories toward the eternal ocean of consciousness. Which brings us to where all these memory streams finally come to rest. After 99 journeys through the landscape of memory, we arrive at the most peaceful destination of all: the sleepy memory palace, where every single remembrance finally finds its eternal rest. Deep within your mind exists this sacred sanctuary, a place where childhood laughter mingles with grandmother's stories, where forgotten dreams dance with tomorrow's hopes. It's like the world's coziest library, but instead of books, the shelves hold every moment you've ever treasured. The funny thing? This palace never gets cluttered. Your brain's night janitor, that's what I call the sleeping mind, organizes everything perfectly while you snooze. First grade memories chat quietly with last week's adventures. That embarrassing moment from high school? It's sitting peacefully next to your proudest achievement, both finally making sense together. Here's the beautiful part. Every person you've loved has left furniture in this palace. Your mother's voice echoes in the kitchen. Your best friend's laugh bounces off the walls. Even your pet goldfish from age 7 has a tiny, honored place by the window. This isn't just where memories go to retire. It's where they become wisdom, where scattered experiences weave themselves into the story of who you are. Tonight, as you drift toward sleep, know that your memory palace is waiting, patient, peaceful, perfect, ready to welcome today's moments into tomorrow's treasured remembrances. Sweet dreams, memory keeper.